So, Uncle Jeff, Aunt Karen, how's the e-commerce business treating you these days? Leo greeted the couple next to him politely, though his enthusiasm was low. He and his uncle were on decent terms. Leo had even lived with him for a while as a kid. Jeff was a warm, ambitious guy, but he was a pushover, completely terrified of his wife. The main issue was the woman Jeff had married, his Aunt Karen. She was sharp-tongued and petty, constantly filling his uncle's head with nonsense. Worse, she had tried to convince Uncle Jeff to brainwash Grandpa Shepherd into leaving the entire family estate and the valuable vineyard to them, cutting out Leo's father, David, and his Aunt Sylvia entirely. Grandpa Shepherd's estate, despite its remote location, was still Portland real estate, and its potential value was enormous. If a development plan ever reached this area, the house and the land could easily be worth tens of millions in a buyout. Yet, when it came time to renovate the old house, Aunt Karen had forbidden Jeff from contributing a dime, threatening divorce if he did. Jeff, being a simple, good-natured man, had no choice but to go along with it. His father, Grandpa Shepherd, hadn't held it against him. In fact, he'd insisted that Jeff would always have a share in the estate no matter what. The moment David and Sylvia paid for the renovations themselves, however, Aunt Karen immediately sent Jeff back to their father, demanding he convince the old man to leave the entire property to him alone. She even took a swipe at Aunt Sylvia, sneering that a married daughter was like spilled water, no longer part of the family. Leo's aunt had a famously short fuse. Hearing that, she drove over to their house that very night and got into a screaming match with Aunt Karen. To this day, their relationship was a Cold War, hidden just beneath the surface of family gatherings. It was no surprise that the caustic Aunt Karen wasn't exactly popular in the family group chat. Every family has its own drama. That saying didn't come from nowhere. It's hard to say, Uncle Jeff said, forcing a smile as he ran a hand over his buzz cut. The industry's getting tougher and tougher. He looked like he wanted to say more, but couldn't. Aunt Karen shot him a look, then coughed pointedly, as if prompting him. Leo knew instantly. They were about to ask him for money. The two of them were in the e-commerce game and knew the short-form video market inside and out. They were convinced Leo had made a fortune, maybe even the ludicrous numbers rumored on TikTok, hundreds of millions a month. They certainly didn't believe Sharon's claims that he'd barely made anything. So, Leo, Uncle Jeff began awkwardly, heard you've been doing pretty well with those videos of yours. Aunt Karen jumped in, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. Oh yes, Leo, we see the ads for your web fiction all the time. Goodness, it's like every other video is yours. Jeff and I couldn't resist. We even paid to read a few chapters. The story is really great. He hasn't made much, David cut in with a chuckle, playing defense. It's just a kid messing around. He got lucky and caught a good wave, that's all. I figure in another month or so, he'll be back to being cooped up in his room, writing full-time. Oh, come on, David, don't be so modest, Aunt Karen said, waving a dismissive hand. We're in the business. You think we don't know how successful your son is? Is that so? I can't make heads or tails of what you young people do, David said with a helpless smile, not knowing what else to say. He gave Leo a calm, steady look. Leo, here's the thing, Aunt Karen said, her face a mask of weary resignation. You know how competitive e-commerce is right now. My business with your uncle. Well, it's not doing so well. She sighed dramatically. I was hoping to borrow $500,000 from you for marketing and promotion. But don't you worry. As soon as we turn a profit, I'll pay you back with interest, I promise. That much? David was floored. Their little company. What on earth could they possibly need $500,000 of promotion for? You could buy their entire operation for less than that. Even Uncle Jeff looked like he thought asking for $500,000 was going too far. But before he could say a word, a single glare from his wife shut him down. Grandpa Shepherd sighed, a troubled look on his face as he stared at the tiled floor, lost in thought. His mind worked in strange ways. He didn't see his daughter-in-law as unreasonable. Instead, he blamed himself for not earning enough when he was younger. If he had, his children wouldn't be fighting over money now. 1. You said you paid to watch my videos. So what's my main character's name? Don't tell me you forgot. 2. Aunt Karen, my company's cash flow is a little tight right now. I don't have that much liquid capital, but I can recommend a friend. He's in the loan business, and he doesn't charge interest. 3. Just like that, you're asking for this and that. Do you think my money grows on trees? $500,000? How about I give you a couple of slaps across the face instead? Aunt Karen, my company's cash flow is a little tight right now. I just don't have that much liquid capital, Leo said, his expression troubled. Then, as if an idea had just struck him, he added, Hey, but I just remembered a friend of mine. Aunt Karen, who had assumed the conversation was over, suddenly lit up. Her eyes gleamed. and her voice became syrupy. "Oh, and my friend, he's in the loan business," Leo said with a pleasant smile. "How about this? Give me your and Uncle Jeff's personal information, and I'll talk to him for you. He can even waive the interest." Aunt Karen's smile froze. "Well, I don't know about that. You can't just give your personal info to strangers." "Aunt Karen, come on. You don't trust me? I wouldn't let anything bad happen," Leo promised earnestly. "Just give me your IDs now, and I can have him wire the money to you this afternoon. It's not like you're not going to pay it back, right, Uncle Jeff?" Right, of course," Uncle Jeff stammered, his face a mess of discomfort, as if Leo had read his mind. "Then let's just forget it," Aunt Karen snapped, her eyelids twitching. Her voice had turned sharp and brittle again. "Who gives out their personal information these days? Your uncle and I will figure something else out. You don't need to worry about it." After a brief, hissed exchange, Aunt Karen grabbed her purse and stormed out of the room, with Uncle Jeff scrambling to follow. "When did you get so sharp-tongued?" David said, a proud smile spreading across his face despite his chiding words. "I really thought you were going to lend them the money." He'd been preparing to make them sign a promissory note, just to avoid collection problems later. But Leo's method was far more brilliant. Not only would he have secured their personal information, ensuring they couldn't default, but he'd also tested whether they ever intended to pay him back in the first place. Leo knew exactly what his father meant, but played dumb. "I was planning to lend them the money. What was so sharp-tongued about that?" As lunchtime approached, more guests arrived at the family estate. David had even invited the neighbors over. They had all helped his parents out in small ways throughout the year, and since David could usually only thank them over the phone, he wanted to show his gratitude properly during the holidays. More importantly, these few days were the only time all year the old folks got to see their family. As their son, David naturally wanted to make the New Year's atmosphere as lively as possible. After this, it would be another year of work from start to finish. The neighbors were all local farmers. They arrived in simple clothes, followed by a few big, goofy-looking farm dogs. In a remote area like this, the dogs could tell which house was having a party just by the amount of foot traffic. Anyone who's been to the countryside knows, the moment someone starts setting up tables and chairs, a few local dogs will be there, waiting patiently. These particular dogs were veterans. They had been making the rounds at Grandpa Shepherd's for 3 straight days, and you could already see they'd put on weight. "Leo, look, dogs. They're so big and fluffy." Eleanor pointed at a large yellow dog sitting on the ground, tugging at Leo's sleeve with the excitement of an explorer discovering a new continent. Eleanor had always loved animals. On TikTok, aside from her usual risque content, her feed was filled with cute pet videos. But her parents had never let her have a cat or dog. They complained about the shedding and the mess, but mostly they worried an animal might get spooked and scratch her face or skin. "I would hope it's a dog and not a cat," Leo quipped with a smile, nudging her with his chin. "If you like him, go pet him." Eleanor hesitated, a flicker of worry in her eyes. "Will he bite me?" "Not right now," Leo said confidently. "But once you leave this yard, all bets are off." These country dogs were usually rowdy, snarling and barking at any strangers who got too close, often scaring the city folk who came to visit their relatives. They'd even chase and nip at people on bicycles, forcing riders to stand up on their pedals to get away. But country dogs also had a certain wisdom, a sense of hierarchy. They knew lunch was coming, and their owner was right here. If one of them so much as growled at Eleanor, not only would they miss out on scraps, but their owner would kick them right out of the yard. "Okay, I'll try." Eleanor cautiously raised her hand and walked toward the big yellow dog. The dog, thinking she had food, lifted its head and sniffed her palm. Then, with a look of disdain, it turned and trotted away. Eleanor looked both hurt and amused. "Hey, Leo, he snubbed me. You don't have any food. You're not his family." "Of course he snubbed you," Riley said, walking over while cracking sunflower seeds. The pack of dogs immediately swarmed around her. The big yellow one even started rubbing against her leg, whining affectionately. Eleanor watched, envious. Over the past few days, Riley had been feeding the dogs constantly, and they all recognized their young benefactor. Just then, Sharon walked by with a plate of sliced beef. Riley seized the opportunity and snatched a few pieces. After getting a playful swat from her mom, she handed the meat to Eleanor. "Try again now," Riley instructed patiently. "Hold the meat tight. Don't let it all go at once. You can pet them while they're eating. Just be gentle." Riley knew Eleanor was the daughter of Leo's business partner and figured she could be important for her brother's future, so she naturally wanted to keep her happy. "Okay, I'll try." Seeing the food in Eleanor's hand, the big yellow dog's tail started wagging furiously as it trotted back over. The other dogs followed, their tongues lolling out as they sat down in front of her, their eyes fixed on the prize. Eleanor pinched a piece of beef between her fingers and held it out. The dog gently nibbled it from her hand. Seizing the moment, Eleanor rested her other hand on the dog's head, stroking its soft fur with a steady, trembling excitement. Wow, this is amazing. Petting a dog for the first time in her life. Eleanor's eyes shone with ecstatic light. Huh, what's so amazing about it? Riley tilted her head, confused. Who was this girl? Was feeding a stray really that big a deal? The dog, Eleanor said with a smile, though her tone grew a little somber. My parents never let me get near animals. This is the first time I've ever touched one. Seriously? That's crazy, Riley said, her lip curling in distaste. She suddenly realized that being rich wasn't as carefree as she'd imagined. They wouldn't even let you pet a dog? Seeing Eleanor's bittersweet smile, Riley felt a pang of sympathy. Hey, she said, an idea sparking. You want to go crawfishing with me tomorrow? Crawfishing? Is there an ocean nearby? Eleanor asked curiously. Not that kind of lobster, Riley said, somehow knowing exactly what she meant. There's an old pond behind my grandpa's vineyard. It's full of wild crawdads. We can use pig liver for bait tomorrow. Catching wild crawdads. With pig liver, Eleanor repeated, her eyes glazed over. Then she suddenly grabbed Riley's hands, her voice filled with excitement. Count me in. How much is it? I'll pay you right now. It's free. It's an abandoned pond, remember? We just need to buy some liver. Make sure my brother drives us, though. It's kind of a long walk. Leo watched the two girls chatting animatedly from a short distance, not joining in, just listening quietly. His sister could be a handful, loud and foul-mouthed at times, but when it mattered, she knew how to handle herself. It was why she had so many friends, both at school and outside of it. Nobody dislikes someone with that much positive energy. People like that are open, warm, and genuine. No matter how bad your mood is, spend a little time with her, and you'll start to feel optimistic again. He hoped the two of them would get to know each other quickly. It might just lessen the fallout when the inevitable disaster struck. If Eleanor's true relationship with him ever came out, Riley might, by some strange twist of fate, end up helping him out. In just a few dozen minutes, Riley and Eleanor were thick as thieves, talking and laughing like they'd been sisters their whole lives. Riley had always been an outgoing, open-hearted person with a real gift for gab. She could make the most mundane story sound like a grand adventure. More importantly, she'd always been into things most boys liked, raiding birds' nests, making her own fishing rods, picking wild berries in the mountains. She was a natural at things even the boys struggled with. Eleanor, in turn, was fascinated by all these things she'd never experienced. It didn't take long for the innocent, slightly goofy chatterbox and the curious rich girl to click like magnets, inseparable as they chatted away about everything under the sun. They even exchanged numbers. Riley found her brother's rich girl friend fascinating, too. She had the naivety of someone who'd never seen the harsh side of the world, combined with a beauty that could topple kingdoms. If her parents were some kind of billionaires, she'd be the perfect female lead from one of the novels she read. Around 1 in the afternoon, the large round tables in the courtyard were laden with delicious, colorful dishes. David, as the eldest son, had already given the New Year's toasts on the first day. The next few days were all about eating, drinking, and having fun. Pure entertainment. Leo had been busy chatting with other guests. When he came back to his seat, he found Eleanor sitting with Riley, and his mom, Sharon, was right there with them. He didn't know what the two beautiful young women and his mother were talking about, but all three were laughing happily. I wish it could always be like this, Leo thought with a contented smile. He sat down next to his father and picked up a piece of soy-braised duck with his chopsticks. All the food for the holidays was prepared by neighbors and relatives. David just footed the bill for the ingredients. They were all Portland locals, born and raised, and every one of them was a fantastic cook. Leo, I want your duck. Eleanor's eager, soft voice cut through the noisy chatter at the table, making everyone freeze for a second and turn to stare at Leo. Leo nearly choked. He looked at Eleanor in disbelief. Huh. The duck, she clarified, blinking her clear eyes as she gazed at the plate of braised duck in front of him. I can't reach it. The tables in the countryside weren't the kind with a lazy Susan. They were massive. So to get a dish you wanted, you either had to stand up or ask someone closer pass it. Jesus, you scared me, Leo breathed, relieved. He quickly stood up and passed the plate to his mother. For a second there, he thought the little heiress was having one of her episodes in public. The awkward tension at the table vanished as quickly as it had appeared. It was just a slip of the tongue, after all. Here you go, Eleanor. I made this duck myself, Sharon said, smiling as she placed the dish within Eleanor's reach. Thank you, Sharon. Eleanor took a piece, and her eyes lit up with a golden glint. This is delicious. It's even better than the duck I had at the Vista. Ah, you're too kind. If you like it, have some more, Sharon said, beaming. She was growing fonder of this girl by the minute. She was not only polite, but her guileless personality was incredibly charming. From the refined way she ate to her straight, graceful posture, it was clear she came from a very good family. Of course, the main thing was that Eleanor was breathtakingly beautiful. Her looks weren't just captivating to men. They had a certain appeal to women, too, especially mothers. Sharon couldn't help but imagine what her son's daughter would look like if he had a child with such a stunning woman. Probably just as beautiful and adorable. But the explosive thought vanished from her mind as quickly as it came. Leo was practically engaged. How could she, his mother, be having such fickle thoughts? Sigh. If only I could have them all as daughters-in-law, Sharon muttered to herself. Eleanor, you enjoy your meal. I'm going to go make a toast, she said, worried her resolve might weaken if she stayed next to Eleanor any longer. She quickly excused herself and went to chat with relatives at another table. Eleanor, you've eaten at the Vista? Riley asked curiously. The Vista was one of the most expensive restaurants in Portland, with a minimum tab of $5,000 per person. After being acquired and renovated by the Hayes Group last year, it had become the city's most luxurious and opulent dining establishment, attracting countless influencers and millionaires. Riley followed a food blogger who had recently posted a video from there, and he had praised the food as if it were some life-extending elixir. Being a foodie herself, Riley had spent days before the holidays begging Leo to take her, but he'd been too busy juggling his various girlfriends to find the time. The plan had fizzled out. A few times, Eleanor said after a moment of thought, making a serious comparison. Their food is okay, but I think this is much better. Really? Riley asked, astonished. A restaurant that expensive isn't as good as a country feast. It's true. Eleanor nodded earnestly. When we get back to the city, I'll take you. You'll see. It's definitely not as good as what we're eating now. Haha, no, that's okay. We just met. I couldn't let you treat me. Riley politely declined. Besides, that place is so popular. I bet even rich influencers can't get a table. It's no problem. I just have to let the owner know, Eleanor said nonchalantly. You just show up, and I'll take care of everything. Wow. Eleanor, are you good friends with the owner? Riley was starting to think there was more to Eleanor than met the eye. She knew the owner of the Vista. Eleanor's expression was calm. We've barely spoken. I don't even know his name. Then you're not good friends. Why would he hold a table for you, just because you asked? Riley was confused. Huh? Why do I need to be good friend with him for him to hold a table for me? Eleanor was just as confused. No, I mean, what? Riley scratched her head, wondering if she was hearing things. She looked at Eleanor, perplexed and amazed. This girl's logic was all over the place. We're all rich kids like this. My dad owns that restaurant now. Eleanor explained simply. Why would I need the manager's approval to eat at my own family's place? The Vista is your dad's? Riley muttered to herself in surprise. Then her pupils constricted, and she stared at the stunningly beautiful girl beside her, an incredible theory exploding in her mind. The Vista was owned by the Hayes Group. The Hayes Group was founded by Harrison Hayes, the wealthiest man in Portland. Eleanor's last name was also Hayes, and the restaurant belonged to her father. By that logic, Eleanor's father was Harrison Hayes, the richest man in Portland. Was that even possible? Could it be that dramatic? And since when did the richest man in Portland have such a gorgeous daughter? Why had she never heard about her before? Eleanor, is her dad's name Harrison Hayes? Riley whispered, leaning close to Eleanor's ear, her voice trembling. Are you the daughter of the richest man in Portland? Huh? How did you know? Eleanor blinked. Then, after a moment's thought, she playfully slapped her own forehead. Riley, I promised your brother I wouldn't tell anyone my identity, she pleaded in a low voice. We're good friends, right? Can you keep a secret for me? Otherwise, your brother will get mad at me. Riley managed, her mind completely blown. She felt numb, as if the noisy world around her had faded away. She couldn't believe that the girl sitting next to her was actually the daughter of the richest man in Portland. A living, breathing heiress, right beside her. They had just been chatting, and she even had her number now. Riley felt like she had stepped into a fantasy novel. More importantly, why would a person of her stature be afraid of her snarky, annoying brother? Seriously, what right did he have? Riley had always wondered how her brother's career had taken off so spectacularly, how he was making so much money. So this was it. He had the daughter of a billionaire backing him. A whirlwind of emotions, excitement, shock, joy, awe, and even a strange, inexplicable fear tangled inside her. She subconsciously scooted away from Eleanor, afraid she might accidentally break her. Eleanor, you're so rich. Why are you afraid of my brother? Aren't you just business partners? Riley couldn't help her curiosity. Can you tell me, what's really going on between you two? Eleanor couldn't very well say, because I'm in love with your brother. So, her playful eyes darted around for a moment before she put on a wronged expression. Because your brother has something on me. If I don't listen to him, he'll post my ugly pictures all over the internet. Huh. She meant to be teasing, but just imagining the scenario sent a thrill of excitement through her. How could he? Riley was about to fly into a rage, but then she caught herself. It didn't seem right. First of all, Leo would never do something that despicable. But more importantly, if he really did have embarrassing photos of her, why did Eleanor seem so unconcerned? In fact, the more she talked about it, the more excited she looked. Was she getting turned on by the idea? Eleanor, are you okay? Riley asked, frowning with concern. Huh? Oh, I'm fine. Eleanor said with a nervous laugh, subconsciously shifting her legs. So weird, Riley thought. This heiress was a little strange, nothing like the cold, aloof image she had in her head. She couldn't quite put her finger on what was odd about her, but that irrepressible excitement she'd just seen. Riley felt like she'd seen that look somewhere before. After lunch, a heavy snow began to fall again. With nothing else to do, Leo gathered a few of the younger guys from the area to play poker. During the long New Year's holiday across the country, customs and celebrations might differ from place to place. But after the main festivities were over, the entertainment for most families was remarkably similar. Kids gathered to set off fireworks, young adults hung out to chat and play games, and the older generation either played bridge or sat around the fire, gossiping about family matters. Riley had wanted to join the poker game, but Sharon had dragged her away by the ear, declaring that it was improper for a young lady to be gambling. In a warm little room, Leo and a few others his age sat around a small table, with loose change and small bills piled in front of them as stakes. They'd been playing for over half an hour, and Leo was winning the most. To win at poker, you needed more than just luck. A strong poker face was crucial. Whether he had a great hand or a terrible one, no one could read a single thing from his expression. He'd successfully bluffed his way through several rounds with garbage hands, and the pile of cash in front of him was growing steadily. He handed his winnings over to Eleanor, who was sitting next to him, to manage. It was her first time seeing a real poker game. She didn't understand the rules, but she watched with rapt attention. Every time Leo won a hand, she was even more excited than he was, happily counting the bills he'd won. It was only a couple $100, but the little heiress treated it like it was a fortune, clutching it tightly to her chest as if to protect it from thieves. Hey, Leo, let your girl play around. Look how excited she's getting just watching. Yeah, let her play a few hands. Leo was winning too much, and a couple of the other players, feeling a bit salty, started playfully goading him. They didn't know who Leo's official girlfriend was, but seeing how close Eleanor was sitting to him and holding his money, they figured she had to be the one. I don't know how to play. Eleanor wanted to join, but being called Leo's girl made her blush. She fidgeted with her down jacket, shyly glancing at Leo to see his reaction. Eleanor, want to play? Leo didn't confirm or deny anything. He just smiled and asked. Honestly, winning so consistently was getting boring. There was no challenge. Yes. Eleanor nodded happily. She eagerly swapped seats with Leo and put $2 into the center of the table as her ante. $2 ante, 3 cards, 3 aces is the best hand, 3 twos is the worst. The heiress was surprisingly quick on the uptake. Leo only had to explain the rules once for her to get the hang of it. But the moment her 3 cards were dealt, she couldn't resist snatching them up. Her face lit up. Wow, Leo, I have a pair of aces. Am I going to win? Leo. Unlike Leo's impenetrable poker face, Eleanor's emotions were an open book. When she got a good hand, her face bloomed with delight. When she got a bad one, she was shrouded in gloom. Whatever she was thinking was written all over her face. With that kind of transparent nature, it didn't matter how good her luck was. There was no way she was leaving the table with any money. In just half an hour, all of Leo's winnings had been lost by the little heiress. Even though it was only a couple $100, she acted as if she'd lost billions. After leaving the game, she was sullen and dejected. She barely touched her food at dinner, occasionally muttering to herself as she replayed the afternoon's hands in her head. After dinner, around 8 o'clock, a light snow began to fall again. David was still drinking and laughing with Grandpa and a few relatives, while Sharon and Grandma watched over them nervously. Riley and Sophie complained it was too cold and refused to leave the house. Leo finally found Eleanor at the main gate. The little heiress was petting the big yellow dog from that morning, her lips pushed out in a pout of grievance and indignation. She was shooting resentful glares at the young men who had won her money. The guys had no idea what they'd done wrong, but her stare was making them squirm. They quickly made their excuses and scurried out of her line of sight. The yellow dog, now familiar with Eleanor, didn't dare struggle too much against her embrace. It could only let out a pathetic whine, tongue lolling, as she took out her frustration on its fur with a series of vigorous pats. "All right, it was just for fun. Are you really this upset over $200? Leo said, shaking his head with a helpless smile. He had to admit, being beautiful had its perks. Even her sore loser pout was adorable. They were definitely cheating. Eleanor grumbled. Every time I got a good hand, they all folded. It was like they were colluding. Leo snorted. Every time you got a good hand, you looked like you'd won the lottery. They're not idiots. Why would they call your bet? 1. Scolding. Come on, don't be like that. You're a billionaire heiress. Are you really going to fuss over a couple $100? 2. Change the subject. Come with me. I'll take you up to the roof to see the view. The night sky in the country is something you rich people have never seen. 3. Suggestive invitation. You didn't get to play enough? Let's go to my room and continue. 1 piece of clothing for every hand you lose. No backing out. Come on, let the dog go. I'll show you something cool. Honestly, if they weren't at his grandfather's house, surrounded by family and friends, Leo would have been very tempted to play a round of strip poker with the little heiress. Eleanor looked up, her eyes wide with curiosity. What is it? You'll see. Follow me. Leo offered a mysterious smile and led the way. Eleanor immediately let go of the dog and eagerly followed him. Grandpa Shepherd's self-built house was 5 stories tall. The first 3 floors were bedrooms, while the top 2 were storage rooms for crops and tea leaves. Leo led Eleanor to the 5th floor and opened the door to the roof. A cool breeze swept over them, making her shiver. Leo, it's cold, Eleanor said, shrinking into her collar. She looked around the empty rooftop. What's up here? Watch this. Leo felt around in the dark until he found the switch for the searchlight. It was incredibly powerful. Grandpa Shepherd used it every night to check on the distant vineyard and watch for thieves. Leo flicked it on. A brilliant beam of light shot into the night, intersecting with the falling snowflakes, creating a serene and magical atmosphere. The snowflakes, drifting down from the dark sky, seemed to slow as they passed through the light, their descent gentle and beautiful. In the quiet of the snowy night, the sound of cheerful laughter drifted up from the courtyard below. Occasionally, someone would hurry past the main gate, their footsteps leaving a trail of deep and shallow prints in the snow. Children played in the yard, their happy shouts echoing in the crisp air. Up on the rooftop, it was silent. The snow, illuminated by the single beam of light, was the most beautiful sight of the cold winter night. So, what do you think? Pretty amazing, right? Leo asked, raising an eyebrow smugly. The little heiress was clearly mesmerized. She walked forward in awe, raising her hands into the light to catch the falling snowflakes. A smile of pure, heartfelt joy spread across her exquisite face. It was just an ordinary snowfall, but to her, it felt different. The ephemeral beauty of the snowflakes in the darkness brought a sense of peace and relaxation just by watching them. Yeah, she breathed. Fucking awesome. Leo winced. TSK, can't you say something normal? It's beautiful, Eleanor said, her voice filled with excitement. You should come this summer. It's even better, Leo said, his voice full of nostalgic warmth. When I was a kid, my grandpa and I used to sleep up here on hot summer nights. We'd lay out a mat, eat watermelon, listen to the crickets, and watch the stars. Man, there was nothing like it. His words painted such a vivid picture that the little heiress was completely captivated. Leo, she pleaded, can we come back to your grandpa's this summer? Please. No problem, Leo agreed without hesitation. The little heiress was the classic rich girl archetype, someone who had never experienced the simple pleasures that ordinary people took for granted. The old saying was true. If she's innocent, show her the ways of the world. Things that seemed mundane to others were endlessly fascinating to Eleanor. In short, to win over a rich girl, you had to pull her down from her pedestal and show her the ordinary life she'd never known. This method was foolproof, unless she was the type who spent her nights clubbing and had a bad reputation. The only prerequisite was that you had to act naturally around her, without being either servile or arrogant. A lot of guys, upon learning about a girl's family background, would immediately feel unworthy. They wouldn't just fail at showing her the world. They'd be too tongue-tied to even speak to her. If that was you, you might as well give up. With an atmosphere this good, shouldn't we make out? Leo, who no longer knew the meaning of insecurity, said with a cheeky grin as he wrapped his arm around her. The little heiress hugged his waist, pressing her body against his. She lifted her perfect face and looked up at him with a playful pout. Did you bring me to a deserted spot on purpose? Leo nodded shamelessly. I wasn't thinking that before, but I am now. You're so annoying. MMPH. Before she could finish her complaint, Leo leaned down and captured her lips. After spending time with so many beautiful girls, he had come to one ironclad conclusion. The more beautiful the girl, the better she tasted. The next afternoon, Leo drove the sisters and Eleanor to the abandoned pond behind the vineyard to go crawfishing. It was winter, so the pond was frozen over. The four of them broke a hole in the ice and fished with pig liver for half the day without a single bite. It was only then that Riley remembered crawdads hibernate in the winter. Undeterred, she rallied the others to start digging in the muddy holes along the pond's bank. Leo had just showered and had no intention of getting filthy, but Riley and Eleanor couldn't have cared less. Like two wild kids, they rolled up their pants, revealing their pale calves, grabbed a small red bucket, and started digging enthusiastically in the mud. Leo found a spot on a grassy bank to sit and have a cigarette while he messaged with his media company team about operations. Even during the holidays, the HR director he'd hired and his staff were working overtime, recruiting employees for various positions. Jobs in the entertainment industry were scarce right now, and competition was fierce for every role, from directors and actors to the most minor crew positions. In just a few days, dozens of people had applied for non-acting roles, including the water delivery guy and the front gate security guard. After the new year, Leo planned to write a solid script, hire a few A-list stars, and launch his company's first major project to build up its reputation. On top of that, he had to pick up Lily and her sister in 2 days, and a few days after that, he had to help Chloe set up their new place near the university. The new year was already shaping up to be another whirlwind of activity. Sigh. It's not easy being a player, Leo murmured lazily, lying back on the grass and closing his eyes to soak up the sun. The weather was beautiful today. The snow had stopped, and a warm sun was out. Lying here like this, he could feel the warmth seeping into every pore. Bro, what did you say isn't easy? A soft voice asked from beside him. A small shadow fell over him, blocking the winter sun. Leo's eyes snapped open. Sophie was smiling down at him, a picture of innocence. She was holding a bag with a few bottles of water, apparently just back from the small store down the road. I said being a boss isn't easy. What's up? Give me a water, Leo said, forcing a calm tone as he held out his hand. Inside, his heart was pounding. He had no idea if she'd heard what he'd actually said. And if she had, what would she do? Sophie pressed her lips together, her eyes glinting with a sly, knowing look as she seemed to mull something over. What are you staring at? Leo prompted impatiently. Here. Sophie's smile was radiant as she handed him the water and sat down intimately beside him. The two of them sat in silence, watching the other two girls across the pond. The atmosphere was strangely tense. The warm winter sun on Leo's skin suddenly felt hot, making him sweat. It was the first time in a long while he'd felt that kind of heart-pounding nervousness, and it was his own sister causing it. Bro, aren't you going to go catch crawdads? Sophie asked, tilting her head as she watched the two mud-covered figures in the distance. Leo shook his head. No, I just showered. I don't want to get dirty. Oh, I see. After that brief exchange, they fell silent again. Bro, Sophie said suddenly after a few minutes, her expression turning cold. What? Leo turned to look at her. Sophie stared straight at him, her words sharp and direct. I heard what you said just now. Heard what? Leo's heart began to hammer against his ribs, but his face remained a mask of calm. His tone didn't even waver. The making of an actor. Are you sure you want me to say it out loud? Sophie's smile was placid, but her eyes held a hint of a threat. Go ahead. If you don't say it, how will I know what you're talking about? Leo said with a dismissive shrug. Bro, I don't want to play games with you. It doesn't matter if you admit it or not. I heard you, Sophie said, her voice dropping, her expression twisting into something ugly. Let's be direct. I forbid you from marrying Chloe Miller. I hate her. You can date any other girl you want. I don't care. But not that bitch. 1. Why? What did Chloe ever do to you? You can't just tell me to break up with her. You have to give me a reason. 2. Wow, you really are my sister. You know exactly what I'm thinking. Don't worry, I have no intention of marrying Chloe. 3. What the hell are you talking about? Do you want me to slap you? Since when do you get to tell me what to do? Who did you just call a bitch? Sophie, have mom and dad been too busy to keep an eye on you lately? Do you want me to slap you? Leo shot to his feet, furious, glaring down at her. Since when do you get to run my life? He had never, ever raised his voice at his sisters, but this time he was genuinely angry. He couldn't believe that his sweet, polite little sister could say something so vile about his girlfriend. How could he not be furious? The second time, Sophie's voice trembled as she looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. She mumbled, dazed. Leo frowned. The second time what? This is the second time you've yelled at me for that girl. Sophie shrieked, scrambling to her feet. She shoved him, sobbing hysterically, and ran towards his BMW, slamming the door shut behind her. Damn it, what did I do to deserve this? Leo fumed. He knew Sophie had a brother complex, but he never thought it would go this far. She knew he was her biological brother, so why was she acting like this? And what did she mean this was the second time? When had he ever yelled at her before? Just then, Riley and Eleanor returned from their digging expedition. Tada! Leo, look, crawdads. Eleanor, covered in mud, held up 2 small crustaceans, one in each hand, showing them off proudly. Don't they look just like the ones we ate that first time? Leo, still fuming, shot her a sideways glance. Yeah, I see them. Eleanor's happy mood evaporated instantly under his emotional, dismissive tone. Her smile faltered, and she listlessly tapped the crawdad's claws together. What's wrong? Riley asked, joining the tense scene. Bro, I saw Sophie crying really hard. What did you do to her? It's none of your business, Leo snapped, waving her away irritably. Oh, I know, Riley said with a knowing grin. You probably made her go buy you cigarettes and then didn't pay her for the errand, so she got mad, right? Leo glanced at the plastic bag at his feet. Inside were 2 unopened bottles of water and a pack of Camels, his usual brand. I guessed right, didn't I? Riley crowed triumphantly. Yeah, you're a real genius, Leo grumbled under his breath. The next morning, the air still held a lingering chill, but Leo was up early, brushing his teeth and getting ready. In past winters, he would have stayed buried in his warm blankets until afternoon, but now his enhanced physique made him impervious to the cold. He could get out of bed shirtless without feeling a thing and could even handle a cold shower. The holidays weren't over, but with everything on his plate, Leo wished he could squeeze 2 days' worth of time into one. After getting ready, and before packing his own things, he went to wake up Eleanor. It didn't matter what kind of girl she was. Mornings were a universal struggle. Eleanor reluctantly crawled out of her warm cocoon. Brushing her teeth, washing her face, getting dressed, doing her makeup, the whole process took over an hour before she was finally, groggily, ready. By the time she stumbled out to the courtyard, Leo had just finished packing his luggage. This was the time management mastery of a true player. Leo didn't waste a single unnecessary minute. As he was warming up the car, Sharon and David hurried out. David was carrying a bag of tea leaves. Eleanor, this is from Leo's grandpa's own vineyard. It's completely organic, no pesticides. Much cleaner than what you buy in stores, Sharon said with a smile, handing the bag to Eleanor. Take it back for your father to drink. And please, come visit us again next year. Eleanor was the daughter of her son's business partner, so naturally, Sharon wanted to make a good impression. It would only help Leo's career. But mostly, she just genuinely liked this simple, polite girl. If it weren't for Chloe, Sharon would have already started pitching her own down-to-earth son to her. Okay, thank you, Sharon. I'll thank you on behalf of my old man, Eleanor said, accepting the tea with a bright smile, no polite refusals. She was direct. If she liked something, she liked it. If she didn't, she didn't. She never played the game of social niceties with people she knew. That kind of straightforwardness wouldn't get her far in the cutthroat world of society, but her status allowed her to be that way. Your old man, Sharon blinked, thinking she must have misheard. Ahem. Mom, Dad, it's getting late, Leo coughed, changing the subject. Eleanor and I are going to head out. Call me if you need anything. I'm going to be really busy this year, so unless it's important, please try not to call. Leo, don't forget what I told you before. I hope you won't disappoint me, David, who had been silent until now, said with a stern and serious tone. Leo didn't explain or agree. He just offered an innocent, harmless smile. We're off. You two should go back inside. It's freezing out here. With that, he hit the gas, and the BMW sped away with the little heiress. Bye, Mr. and Mrs. Shepherd. Eleanor stuck her head out the window, waving cheerfully at the couple. I'll be back this summer. Sigh. She's such a wonderful girl, Sharon said with a wistful smile, waving back gently. Don't get any ideas, David warned, worried his wife was entertaining morally questionable thoughts. Chloe's parents just wished me a happy new year yesterday. They told me they've already bought the marital home right in downtown Portland. You can't be having any stray thoughts now. You think I need you to tell me that? Sharon rolled her eyes at him. Then her voice turned melancholic. I just feel like our son is getting further and further away from us. He's not the same person anymore. Leo's astounding transformation this year had not gone unnoticed by his parents. Not only had he become more outgoing and confident, but his conversation skills and emotional intelligence were like those of a different person. If it weren't for the fact that he was still the same sarcastic, infuriating kid at home, they would have thought he'd been possessed. It's a good thing he's changed. If he'd stayed as naive as he was before, he'd just get taken advantage of, David said, putting an arm around his wife's shoulder to comfort her. As long as he's not breaking the law, being a little sharper and quicker on his feet is a good thing. Then, what about him? Sharon asked worriedly. Connor Sterling messaged me again yesterday. He said he wants to meet Leo sometime. I think the meeting is just an excuse. He's going to try to take him back. Leo's birthday is coming up, isn't it? Let's just tell him then. See what he thinks, David said after a moment of silence, his eyes firming with resolve. And really, we should have told him on the day he turned 18. We've delayed this for too many years. We have a duty and a responsibility to tell him the truth. If he wants to stay with us, then we don't care what Connor Sterling thinks. We'd have a strong case even if it went to court. And if he doesn't want to, Sharon asked, her voice filled with dread. I think he'll definitely want to stay with us. We've raised him all these years. Do you really not know his character? David said with a confident smile. Even though he's gotten a bit smarter, his true nature hasn't changed. That's true, Sharon said with a proud sniff. All right, let's go back inside. It's cold. David put his arm around his wife. As they turned, they saw Sophie standing perfectly still by the stone lion at the gate, a faint, knowing smile on her face as she watched them. Sophie, why are you up so early? Sharon's heart jumped, terrified her daughter had overheard their conversation. I couldn't sleep last night, Sophie said with a tired yawn. Is bro gone? He just left, David said with a concerned smile. Hurry back inside. It's starting to snow again. Sophie shook her head, tapping away on her phone without looking up. You guys go ahead. The signal is bad in the courtyard. I'm just using my data to chat with a friend out here. The couple exchanged a look, but didn't think much of it and headed back inside. Sweet strawberry Jenna, Sophie, that grad student has been chasing me forever. Zach hasn't been working lately, and I'm broke. I want to break up with him. Crying emoji. Sophie's world, don't Jenna. I need you to string him along for a little while longer. I still need your help. Venmo transfer, $500. Sweet strawberry. Thanks Sophie, love you. Sweet strawberry. I swear, to help you get your brother, you pushed this loser on me and made me keep him on the hook. 3 years, Sophie, 3 whole years. Do you have any idea what that's been like? You've ruined me, girl. Tearful emoji. Sophie's world. Come on, Jenna, Zach's not so bad. Why don't you get a real try with him? Cute emoji. Sweet strawberry. If you don't love him, don't hurt him. Whoever wants him can have him. I'm done with that kind of cheap trash. Sweet strawberry. By the way, after how your brother acted yesterday, are you still going to try to ruin things for them? Aren't you afraid of making him mad for real? Sophie's world. Of course I'm scared. I was terrified yesterday. I've never seen him that angry before. Sweet strawberry. Then why are you still doing this? You're kind of obsessed. Scared emoji. What can I say? I've got a brother complex, she typed. Besides, my brother was never like this before. He's never been mad at me in his entire life. Sophie's world. I'm sure Chloe Miller put him up to it. Once I get rid of that woman, my brother should go back to normal. Sweet strawberry. Your brother is great now, rich and handsome. You actually prefer the nerdy homebody he used to be? Sophie's world. Not really. It's just, he was dumber back then. My brother's too smart now. He doesn't listen to me like he used to. The BMW had only been on the road for a short while before it hit traffic. A massive wave of cars returning from the holidays clogged the highway, a dense, unmoving line. It would be at least a couple of hours before they could get through. Are you feeling better? Eleanor asked tentatively from the passenger seat. About what? Leo glanced over at her. You seemed really upset yesterday. Did something happen? It's nothing. Just a sibling squabble, Leo said with a nonchalant smile. Even if Sophie had overheard him, she didn't have any real proof. He could handle a little drama from her. By the way, Eleanor, after the holidays are over, I want you to come with me to meet Chloe, Leo stated calmly. I think it would be good for you two to get to know each other. That way, I won't have to worry about people spreading rumors about us. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is the safest place. Leo had a feeling Sophie was going to stir up more trouble. He might as well introduce Eleanor to Chloe now, before Sophie could run to Chloe with stories about the past few days. If that happened, Chloe might start digging into his other relationships, and that would be a disaster. Besides, Eleanor was a unique case. She didn't care how many girlfriends he had, she wouldn't get jealous, and she wouldn't trigger a disaster scenario. What was the downside? Oh, Eleanor said, her full, pink lips pouting slightly. She sounded hurt. Even though she was willingly letting Leo play her, it still stung whenever he said things like that. It felt like a rejection. Leo's mind worked lightning fast. He immediately took her delicate white hand in his and whispered playfully, "The main reason is, I want Chloe to know there are no rumors between us." It sounded like a throwaway line, but it had two distinct meanings and nuance that someone with lower emotional intelligence might miss. The subtext was, our relationship is real, not a rumor, and I'm not afraid of Chloe knowing. The literal meaning was, there's nothing going on between us, so it's fine for Chloe to meet you. Leo was aiming for the first, more intimate interpretation. With no one else around, his words were clearly meant to flirt with the little heiress. If Chloe had been there, however, the same sentence would have served as a clarification of their platonic relationship. God, Leo, you really are a player, Eleanor grumbled, but a joyful smile was already spreading across her face. She'd gotten the message. Maybe their relationship was strange and unconventional, but as long as she was happy, that was all that mattered. And she could feel that, in his own way, Leo truly cared for her. Yup, I'm a player, total scumbag. I shouldn't be trying to juggle so many girls at once, Leo said, his voice free of any psychological burden. Talking to Eleanor was like confessing to a nun in a confessional. He could pour out all his sins without judgment. Damn it, but I really do like all of you. I don't want to lose anyone. He intertwined his fingers with hers, his voice filled with emotion. Eleanor, if things ever blow up in my face, you have to help me, okay? I have a feeling things are only going to get harder from here. Don't worry. I've got your back, Eleanor said, raising her hand and making an okay sign she'd learned from TikTok comments. Haha, okay, Leo nodded, feeling that the little heiress was becoming more and more interesting. If you're ever unhappy, you can touch my leg. If that's not enough, you can hit me a couple of times. Just don't be angry, okay? I don't like it when you're like that, Eleanor said seriously, taking Leo's right hand and placing it on her thigh, teaching him how to vent his frustrations. Okay, I'll listen to you. Leo's heart softened. He accepted her offer, his hand gently exploring her thigh. Only then did Eleanor's smile return. She began to hum a familiar tune, her slender fingers tapping out the rhythm on the car window. Hey, not bad, Leo said, turning off the car stereo. He lifted his chin. What song is that? It sounds so familiar. The little heiress gave a proud little hum and then, in fluent English, said, It's called Since You've Been Gone. Oh, no wonder it sounded familiar. It all came back to him. He'd heard that song a million times as a kid. It had been the anthem of every emo kid's MySpace page. Just hearing Eleanor hum the melody made him feel like his swoopy bangs were about to grow back. Don't just hum it. Sing it for me. In English, Leo urged, intrigued. The little heiress had a nice voice. He had a feeling she'd be a good singer. Okay, ahem. Eleanor cleared her throat, hummed a few introductory notes, and then began to sing, her voice sultry and captivating. Leo was right. She was an amazing singer. Her tone, her rhythm, even her flawless English, it was all perfect. No exaggeration. If you gave her a backing track, she could have a record deal on the spot. As she sang, she swayed her slender body to the music, occasionally shooting Leo a playful, confident glance. The warm winter sun streamed through the window, illuminating her. In that moment, Leo saw a dazzling light radiating from the girl he had once thought of as just a horny rich kid. So, what do you think, Leo? I'm a pro. This is the result of years of lessons my old man forced on me. When the song was over, she looked at him triumphantly, her exquisite face clearly saying, Praise me now. Damn, why didn't you bust out this talent sooner? Leo lamented. If you'd sung for me earlier instead of always trying to get me in bed, I would have been your sim from day one. Hee really? The over-the-top compliment was exactly what she wanted to hear. I can sing for you every day from now on. Deal. A man's perception of a woman can change in an instant, with a single gesture, a single look. Before, Leo had seen Eleanor as just a rich, horny girl. Now his view of her was completely different. In his eyes, she was confident, cute, beautiful, and innocent. Her amazing singing voice and her wealth were bonuses. Even her constant horniness now seemed like an endearing part of her charm. Was this her hidden depth? It was incredible. Damn it, I can't take it. Come here, Eleanor, give me a kiss, Leo said, his head swimming. He unbuckled his seatbelt and leaned over, collapsing on her soft, slender body. Ha. No, Leo, you're so annoying. Eleanor laughed, pushing him away playfully. But after a few moments, she became the aggressor. She loved it when he was this forward. If he could be just a little rougher, it would be even better. Leo and Eleanor spent the entire day wandering through a few of the more well-known historic districts, followed by several more hours on the highway. It was after 2 in the morning when Leo finally dropped Eleanor off at Willow Creek Estates. Then, without a moment's rest, he headed straight for the airport to catch a flight to Idaho to pick up Lily and her sister. "Old man, Mom, I'm home." Eleanor pushed open the front door of the villa, laden with shopping bags, and announced her cheerful return. Her clothes were dotted with snowflakes, making her look both disheveled and adorable. Her parents had returned from their trip abroad, their plane having landed just that evening. Harrison Hayes was sitting on the sofa in his pajamas, reading the newspaper. Catherine Hayes was in the kitchen, chatting with their housekeeper, Mrs. Davis, as she prepared soup. The massive, luxurious living room was brightly lit, but felt somewhat empty. Hearing the noise at the door, the couple's anxiety finally subsided. They had been waiting up for their silly daughter for hours. Fortunately, Leo had called them earlier to let them know they'd be late. Otherwise, they would have already sent people out to look for her. "Eleanor, come here and drink this ginger soup to warm up," Catherine said, handing her a warm bowl. She lovingly but chidingly brushed the snowflakes off her daughter's coat. "Look at you. You look like you just crawled out of the mountains. Did Leo take you mushroom picking?" "There are no mushrooms in winter. We just went crawfishing," Eleanor said, putting down her things. She took a sip of the soup, her eyes shining with anticipation. "Leo said he's really going to take me into the mountains this summer. Maybe we'll find some mushrooms then. Leo this, Leo that. You're going to give him your whole heart, aren't you?" Catherine sighed. "Eleanor, I've told you so many times. Leo has a girlfriend. You absolutely cannot have any ideas about him. Don't make things difficult for your father and me." "I don't care," Eleanor said with a casual shrug. Seeing the strange look in her parents' eyes, she quickly added, "We're just regular friends. Why'd I have to like him? Can't a guy and a girl just be friends?" "Good. As long as you feel that way. I'm relieved," Catherine said, stroking her daughter's damp hair. "Go take a shower before you catch a cold. Mrs. Davis has already drawn a bath for you." "Okay, I know." Eleanor nodded obediently. She bent down and rummaged through her bags, pulling out a horn comb and handing it to her mother. "Mom, I bought this for you in the historic district. The shop owner said it can help with gray hair. You've been getting more lately, so maybe you could try for a while." "Oh, thank you, Catherine said, touched, taking the thick, rough-hewn comb. Her tired eyes welled up slightly. "You get something too, old man." Eleanor proudly placed the bag of tea Sharon had given her on the coffee table in front of her father. "This was grown by Leo's grandfather himself," she added. "You've been complaining about headaches lately. Maybe this will help." "Is that so?" Harrison picked up the bag and sniffed it. He could immediately tell it was ordinary tea, nothing like the expensive, rare blends he usually drank. His teacup alone was probably worth more than the entire crop from that vineyard. But he smiled warmly. He called Mrs. Davis over and asked her to store the tea carefully, saying he would enjoy it when he had some free time. Wealthy people never cared about the price of an item. They cared about its sentimental value. The simple fact that his daughter had brought this ordinary tea back for him from so far away made it priceless. "All right, I'm going to go shower. You two should get some rest," Eleanor said, gathering her things. As she passed her parents, she grumbled with a frown. "I told you I'd be late. Why are you two so stubborn? You didn't have to stay up waiting. Don't do it again, okay? It makes me worry." "Okay, Mom will listen to you," Catherine said with a smile. Harrison let out a long, contented sigh. His daughter had really changed. When they were abroad, Eleanor had been like a lifeless puppet. She would lock herself in her room all day, just staring out the window at the sky. She didn't care about her own health, let alone her parents'. She was so listless it was as if she wanted to just waste away in that room. This was the first time in her life that she had shown any concern for their well-being. Both Catherine and Harrison were deeply moved. At first, they had been skeptical. Would leaving their daughter completely in Leo's care have negative consequences? Would their sweet, obedient girl be corrupted by this brash, unfiltered young man? Now, they saw it had been the absolute right decision. It had only been a short time, but the girl who had been having suicidal thoughts was like a completely different person. Aside from a bit of profanity, she was now a young woman full of hope for the future. It was no exaggeration to say that Eleanor was becoming more and more like a real, feeling person. "What's gotten into you, Harrison?" Catherine teased with a smile. "Weren't you complaining about that nickname? If you don't correct her soon, she might call you that for the rest of her life." The first time Eleanor had called him old man, Harrison had been furious. The disrespect was galling, and he had even threatened to go over to Leo's house and give that punk a piece of his mind. But as Eleanor grew more vibrant and cheerful, and as she started interacting with him more, even being affectionate at times, he found he didn't mind the nickname so much. In fact, he'd gotten used to it. It felt strangely familiar, almost like a term of endearment between old friends. "Let her call me old man," Harrison said, folding his newspaper with a relaxed smile. "I'm old enough, aren't I?" "She's not wrong. You and your pride," Catherine said, rolling her eyes playfully. She sat down next to him and sighed. Maybe it really is fate. We hired so many therapists and specialists abroad, and none of them could help Eleanor. And then we come back here, and some kid from out of nowhere cures her. The boy's a writer. He's bound to have high EQ and a way with words," Harrison said, putting his arm around his wife. "Anyway, our daughter is better now. Let's not meddle in their affairs anymore. I trust the boy not to do anything to hurt her. In a few years, we'll help her find a suitable man to marry, and then we can retire and spoil our grandchildren." Leo's flight was at 2:30 a.m., and he arrived at Boise Airport around 5:00. The journey from the airport to Lily's village required multiple transfers, mostly along bumpy mountain roads. Only the final stretch leading to her village was paved. He tried hailing an Uber for a while, but no driver would accept the trip. Growing impatient, Leo flagged down a local taxi and offered to pay triple the metered fare for a round trip. An offer like that was too good to refuse, and the driver happily took the job. About 3 hours later, the taxi pulled up to the entrance of Lily's village. Leo had coordinated with her on the way, and just as the taxi crested a steep, paved hill, he saw a few familiar figures waiting at the side of the road. The first person he recognized was, of course, the sweet and gentle Lily. She was holding her sister Grace's hand. Her grandmother and a man who must have been her cousin were with them, likely to see them off. The little girl didn't look happy. Her big, round eyes were red, as if she had just been crying. Leo understood. He was taking her away from her beloved grandmother and dropping her into an unfamiliar new life. Of course, she was upset with him. When Leo opened the car door, the two sisters had completely different reactions. Lily's face lit up with a joyous, radiant smile. If she hadn't been holding her sister's hand with her family, standing right there, she would have undoubtedly run to him and thrown her arms around him in a tight hug. The little girl, however, just pouted, her red eyes glaring at Leo with a mixture of resentment and anger. She knew he was the one responsible for separating her from her grandmother. When Leo reached out to pat her head, Grace hid behind her sister's legs, her cute, annoyed expression making the adults chuckle. He had to admit, the kid was adorable, even when she was angry. "Leo, have a safe trip. Don't forget to call us when you get to Portland," the grandmother said in heavily accented English. "I'm old. I don't have many years left. From now on, I'm leaving Lily and Grace in your care. I hope you'll treat them well." "Don't worry, Grandma," Leo promised earnestly. "I'll take good care of them. But the process might be a little complicated," he added silently, a pang of guilt in his chest. "And you," Leo said, turning to her cousin, "I hope you'll get started on what we talked about soon. If you need anything, just call me. If you want to start selling your apples online, I can have someone help you figure that out." "Hey, no problemo," her cousin said with a firm nod. "Safe travels, Leo. Come back and visit next year." After a few more pleasantries and a tearful goodbye between the sisters and their grandmother, Lily took the little girl's hand and followed Leo, looking back over her shoulder every few steps. The little girl was heartbroken, her tears flowing freely. The taxi had been driving for several miles, and she was still crying. When she got tired, she would bury her face in her sister's embrace, recharge, and then start crying again. "Grace, sweetie, don't cry. Big sister will buy you candy later," Lily cooed patiently, rocking the sobbing girl in her arms. She radiated a gentle, maternal warmth. Leo imagined that this was what she would be like as a mother if they ever had children together. The thought was strangely comforting. The taxi driver, however, was getting annoyed. Not wanting to upset his high-paying customer, he decided to have a cigarette to calm his nerves. The taxi was moving fast, and it was snowing outside, so he only cracked the window a tiny bit. The smoke had nowhere to go. If he opened the window all the way, the freezing wind would blast inside. The moment he lit the cigarette, the acrid smell made the little girl cough. Lily instinctively covered her nose with the collar of her jacket. Leo had been on his phone. The sudden silence from the little girl felt strange. He looked up and immediately saw the problem. "Hey man, would you mind not smoking?" Leo asked with a friendly smile. "My wife's pregnant with our second, and the smoke really bothers her." "Oh." Lily looked at him in disbelief, her face flushing crimson. Oh man, why didn't you say so?" "I'm so sorry," the driver said, startled. He quickly opened the window, tossed the cigarette out, and frantically waved his hand to clear the air. Thanks, man, Leo said, shooting a triumphant wink at Lily. She gave him a soft, reproachful glare, but then a wistful smile touched her lips. She gently stroked her sister's head, as if imagining Grace was their child. The tender look made Leo's heart skip a beat, and he reached for her hand. But before he could touch it, a small hand snatched her sister's away and hid it, refusing to let him have it. The culprit, buried in her sister's chest, let out a soft, petulant huff. This kid really holds a grudge, Leo thought. When they got back to Willow Creek Estates, Leo led the sisters into the villa. The little girl was immediately awestruck by the luxurious interior. She didn't know what a villa was, but she knew this house was as beautiful as a castle from fairy tale. Lily showed her sister around the house, then took her to her new room and explained how to use the appliances. Coming from a simple, small house to such an exquisite mansion was a shock. The little girl was timid, afraid to touch anything that looked so clean and new. Lily wasn't worried. They had plenty of time. She would teach her everything slowly. By the time they were done, it was after 8 at night. The little girl was exhausted from the long journey and all the crying. After Lily gave her a bath, she fell asleep instantly on the small bed in her room. Once the child was asleep, it was time for the adults. In the master bedroom, Leo held Lily's curvaceous body, teasing her playfully. "Baby, did you miss me these past few days?" "Please don't ask." Lily looked at him, her eyes full of emotion, then shyly looked away. Ever since they'd met, she always had this bashful demeanor whenever they were intimate, needing him to guide her every step of the way, which drove him crazy. "Tell me," he said, his eyes flashing as he pressed her with a playful dominance. Men always say they like innocent girls, but they love being the one to corrupt them. This wasn't about bullying her. It was a game between lovers, and he loved teasing this sweet, simple girl. Under his gentle interrogation, Lily finally relented like a flower yielding to the sun. "I did. I missed you." Part 2. Mandatory separators. The holidays were barely over, but Leo Shepherd was already back in the thick of it. His new media company was still finding its footing, and a mountain of documents and operational details required his personal attention or signature. He worked nonstop until the holiday lull officially ended and students and workers had trickled back to their campuses and offices. Then, Leo holed himself up at home again, diving into writing his next screenplay. He'd come back from the office at noon and locked himself in his study, hammering out the script, character bios, and dialogue. The room was right next to the master bedroom he shared with Lily. It was equipped with 2 high-spec computers. One was set up in a full gaming cockpit, a rig clearly dedicated to his downtime. The other was a standard office setup, its surface clean and tidy, a testament to Lily's daily straightening. The room was spacious, with a heavy bag hanging near the window. Whenever he needed a break, Leo would throw a few punches to clear his head. Around 6 in the evening, there was a soft knock on the door, so faint he almost missed it. "Come in," Leo said, stretching luxuriously. The door opened gently, and Lily slipped in, her sweet, innocent face alight with visible joy. "Dinner's ready," Leo asked from his chair, watching her approach. In the few months they'd been together, the girl in her early 20s had blossomed, exuding the alluring grace of a young wife. It was all his handiwork, of course. Lily was a natural homemaker, and their life together had simply accelerated the process. "Are you done with work?" she asked, her voice soft and clinging as she came to his side. She deliberately kept her distance from the computer, not wanting a repeat of the last disaster. It was the main reason it took her over half an hour to tidy his simple desk. "I was," Leo said, taking her delicate, smooth hand and pulling her onto his lap. He nuzzled against her, inhaling her faint, sweet scent. "Isabel and Eleanor are here," Lily whispered, her cheeks flushing. She gently held his wandering hands, but didn't push him away. "They helped me cook. They're waiting downstairs." Lately, Isabel had been bringing Maddie over often. She not only helped Lily with chores, but also taught her how to navigate the complexities of their new life. Things like dealing with specialty dry cleaners or the villa's property management, issues Lily had never encountered before. Lily was determined not to hire a housekeeper, wanting to preserve the private world she and Leo were building, which meant learning everything from scratch. Thankfully, Isabel was an expert in domestic matters and knew all the right people. After just a few walkthroughs, Lily had mastered the tasks. The 2 women often took Maddie and Grace to the supermarket together, then came back to cook, waiting for Leo to come home. The 2 little girls, Maddie and Grace, had been inseparable since day one, their mothers and sisters encouraging their fast friendship. Lily was already grateful for Isabel's help back at the apartment complex, but now that Isabel had become her mentor, she looked up to her like a teacher. Sometimes, Isabel's enthusiasm was so proactive that Lily felt a little bashful, often insisting she stay for dinner. Pure as she was, Lily never suspected anything was amiss, nor did she question why Isabel always accepted her invitations to stay for dinner, or even overnight. As for Eleanor, she practically lived there already, showing up whenever she felt like it. If Leo was busy writing and couldn't entertain her, the young heiress would join the two little girls, and the three of them would become a whirlwind of activity. The little ones adored their fun-loving big sister, and their games were always wild. Eleanor had even roped them into planting a 6-foot-tall Christmas tree in Leo's private yard, which they'd covered in glittering gift boxes. On the last day of the holidays, she'd earnestly dragged Leo over to make a wish, claiming that wishing on a Western Christmas tree during the New Year's celebration would grant a double buff. Is that so? Well, let's go downstairs then, Leo said, finally behaving himself. He planted a soft kiss on Lily's smooth, pale cheek. As he stood, he couldn't resist giving her increasingly firm, pert backside a solid pat. It made a sharp smack. "You're terrible," Lily yelped, her face flushing as her heart skipped a beat. She raised a fist to playfully hit him, but the blow turned into a gentle, lingering caress against his chest. She looked up at him, her voice a shy plea. "Can you please not do that all the time?" Just as she'd once said, she could never bring herself to actually hit him. Even her attempts at pouting were soft and tender, like a character from an old-period drama. In front of him, she was always the gentle, obedient girl. "Heh, no." Leo grinned, then wrapped an arm around her and led her downstairs. In a massive living room, the two little girls were excitedly building with Legos alongside Eleanor. Isabel was in the kitchen, putting the finishing touches on the last dish. A cartoon played on a large screen of the TV, and outside, visible snowflakes drifted down. A sense of profound peace settled over Leo. Lily went into the kitchen to take over for Isabel, who came to the dining table to set out the plates and silverware. Leo went to help her. "Leo, is this the life you wanted?" Isabel asked suddenly, looking up at him as she arranged the utensils. Her beautiful eyes held a hint of playful curiosity. Leo looked at Lily, busy in the kitchen, then listened to the sounds of laughter from the bathroom, where the two girls and Eleanor were splashing around. He paused for a moment, then resumed his task and nodded, a look of genuine longing on his face. "Yeah, but it's only half complete. This one is Auntie Eleanor, this is your mom, this is your sister, and this is Leo. Auntie Eleanor, why aren't you standing with us? Why are you hiding behind a tree? Auntie Eleanor, you didn't say who this is. Why is she standing with us?" Eleanor blushed and was about to explain when Leo quickly cut in. "Eleanor, stop playing. It's time to eat." "I'll tell you next time," Eleanor said with a wink, creating a bit of mystery. She took the little girls by the hand and led them to the bathroom to wash up. "What's it like to have two capable, family-oriented women in your house?" Right now, Leo Shepard was probably the world's leading expert on the subject. After dinner, Isabel cleared the table while Lily wiped it down and swept the floor. When Leo offered to help, Lily shooed him away, telling him to go watch TV with Eleanor and the girls on the couch. It was no exaggeration to say that, for the past few weeks, Leo had been living a life of leisure, waited on hand and foot. Meals were cooked for him, and the dishes were done afterward. There was always hot water ready when he got home. His dirty clothes only needed to be tossed into the laundry machine. The next day, they'd reappear, washed, dried, and neatly folded in his closet. He never had to lift a finger for any household chore. When he thought about it, the old folks had a point. You should find a woman who knows how to run a home. It didn't matter if she wasn't a supermodel. Being practical was what counted. But that was advice for men with no options. Given the choice, who wouldn't want a woman who was both a great homemaker and gorgeous? Besides, a woman who could manage the household could solve at least half of your problems. Which was exactly why Leo wanted to. That way, with two women running things at home, all he had to do was focus on making money outside. Actually, there was an even better scenario. Find a woman who was a great homemaker, beautiful and rich. Someone like Isabel. A man who found a woman like that could die happy, smiling all the way to his coffin. Of course, Leo wasn't the type to just sit around. If Lily or Isabel were ever overwhelmed and he had the time, he would pitch in. A team effort made the work lighter. After all, he wasn't actually treating his women like maids. After the chores were done, the three adults sat on the sofa, helping the two little girls with their studies. They were about to start first grade together and were hunched over their little table, working through a first-grade math workbook. Maddie, with her bubbly personality, had zero interest in schoolwork. She counted on her fingers, taking forever to solve a single problem. Grace, however, was sharp as a tack. She finished a whole page in no time, with nearly every answer correct. Isabel was surprised. The girls from the countryside really were a lot smarter. After helping Maddie for a bit, Lily went upstairs and returned with an English textbook and some worksheets, settling on the couch next to Leo to study. Lately, her heart and mind had been completely focused on him, and her worst subject, English, had been totally neglected. With the semester about to start, she didn't want to fall behind. Leo watched her thoughtfully. Even when she was concentrating, she had a sweet, goofy air about her. The way she gently tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear was so quiet and graceful. A strange feeling washed over him. The girl who lived with him every day, who took care of his every need, the woman he had completely made his own, was still just a college student. When he was in college, he was probably curled up in his dorm room, reading web fiction. And here he was, this goddamn monster, preying on girls who had just started college. 2 of them, no less. Jesus, I'm an animal. A bizarre sense of guilt began to creep in, the wicked feeling of a man who plucks a flower just to crush it. Your grammar is wrong here, Eleanor said, scooting closer to Lily. She pointed to a question on the worksheet and corrected the mistake in flawless English. Neither Leo nor Isabel was surprised. Eleanor had spent much of her childhood abroad. Besides her native tongue, English was probably her most fluent language. Lily's eyes lit up with understanding. Wow, Eleanor, your grammar is so good. This was where Lily struggled most. Her introverted nature made her hesitant to speak loudly, and when she did, her English came out stilted and hard to understand. Of course, at 23, Eleanor was about 2.5 years older than Lily, so it was natural for her to call her by her first name. It's nothing, Eleanor said with a proud smile, happily accepting the compliment. Isabel raised an eyebrow and chuckled. Is it just me? Or is Eleanor starting to sound more and more like a certain someone? Who knows? Leo said with a smug grin, subtly sliding his arm around Isabel's shoulders behind the couch. TSK. Isabel shifted slightly, shooting him a playful glare. Her eyes darted nervously toward Lily and Eleanor, her meaning clear. Leo grinned, but knew better than to push his luck. He cleared his throat and turned to Eleanor. Besides English, your other subjects are probably terrible, right? You're kidding. I'm an absolute genius, okay? The young heiress shrugged nonchalantly, a cocky, dismissive smile on her face. Oh yeah, Leo asked skeptically. What was your SAT score that makes you such a genius? 1590, she replied calmly. The living room fell silent. Leo, Lily, and even Isabel stared at Eleanor in disbelief. The 2 little girls, oblivious, looked back and forth at the stunned faces of the adults. Maddie even waved a hand in front of Leo's vacant stare. Wait, what did you say? Leo was sure he'd misheard. Eleanor, a girl with less common sense than a middle schooler, a girl you could barely hold a normal conversation with, got a near-perfect 1590 on her SATs? Could this be any more absurd? You couldn't buy a score that high. 1590, Eleanor repeated, spreading her pale hands in a gesture of effortless superiority. He shocked you, didn't I? Holy crap. For real. If it hadn't been Eleanor, who was a terrible liar, Leo would never have believed that a sheltered rich girl who barely understood daily life could achieve such an insane score. Then he looked at Lily, who had also gotten a killer 1580 on her SATs. Damn it, I'm surrounded by geniuses. All right, so that's how we're playing it, Leo muttered in amazement. Our little world traveler is a secret genius. Huh? He then assigned her a task. Since you're so brilliant, you should help Lily out whenever you have time. You got it, Eleanor said, making an okay sign. Lily just blinked, not understanding the slang. So, Leo, what was your SAT score? Eleanor asked, looking at him with wide, innocent eyes. You're so smart. You must have done great, right? Ahem. Maddie, you got this one wrong again. Isabel barely managed to stifle a laugh, quickly bending over to help Maddie with her workbook, a smirk of schadenfreude playing on her lips. Lily also ducked her head, a ghost of a smile on her face as she pretended to focus on her work. The atmosphere suddenly grew quiet. Both of them knew Leo's score. Oh, look at the time. I've got things to do tomorrow, Leo announced, slapping his knees and standing up. I'm going to go shower and get some rest. You all should turn in early too. The next morning, Leo was up early. He had finally finished the screenplay and needed to go to the office to discuss the upcoming film with his team. Lily had stayed up studying the night before, not going to bed until around 3 in the morning. She was still fast asleep, lying on her side next to him. Her ample chest was pressed against his arm, and her face, flushed a rosy pink, rested near his pillow. Her soft, pink lips were slightly parted as she breathed evenly, looking sweet and innocent even in sleep. She had her own pillow, but sometime in the middle of the night, she always managed to squirm over and try to steal his. If she couldn't get the pillow, she would just hug his arm or wrap her legs around his, saying it was the only way she could sleep soundly. Good thing she doesn't have bad breath, or I'd have woken up ages ago, Leo teased under his breath. As soon as he started to pull his arm away, Lily woke up reflexively. What time is it? Leo grabbed his phone. 7:30. 7? I'll go make you breakfast. Lily scrambled to sit up, but Leo quickly stopped her. It's fine. I won't die from skipping one breakfast. You were up so late. Just get some rest. I'll grab something on the way. It's okay. I'm not tired, she insisted stubbornly, reaching for her pajamas. By the time you're done washing up, it should be ready. Leo clicked his tongue in annoyance. I said I'm not going. Don't make me angry. Lily flinched and put her pajamas back down, her beautiful face clouding over with a hint of hurt. From their interactions, it was clear who would wear the pants if they ever got married. I don't know why you have to argue with me all the time. Just listen to what I say, Leo said, standing by the bed and buckling his belt. He looked down at her, pouting and hurt, and added with a domineering grin, You're a sweet girl from Idaho, not some firecracker from Texas. Don't you go starting a rebellion. I'd save your energy if I were you. I will. I will rebel, she muttered defiantly, her voice lacking any real conviction. It sounded more like she was pouting. Oh yeah? A rebel, are you? Leo exclaimed in mock surprise. He dove back into the bed and wrapped his arms around her full figure, starting to tickle and wrestle with her. Leo, you're awful. That tickles. Awful how? How will I know if you don't tell me? Different girls expressed their happiness in different ways. When Isabel was happy, her laughter was warm and exuberant, the standard expression of joy for a mature woman. Chloe's laugh was strange. Her voice was lovely, but her laugh sounded like a quacking duck. Eleanor's was a cute, giggly sound, though Leo suspected, perhaps wrongly, that a hint of mischief lurked beneath it. But for a quiet, introverted girl like Lily, even when she was ecstatic, her face would light up with a smile, but she wouldn't make a sound. The moment Leo looked at her, her smile would turn shy, but her sparkling eyes, reflecting his own image, would be brimming with joy. You're so beautiful, baby, Leo murmured, finishing their playful tussle. He gazed down at the lovely girl beneath him, the atmosphere in the room turning sensual. He rarely complimented his girlfriends on their looks or figures. It was a shame, really, because every single one of them was top tier, and he had first-hand experience, so how could he possibly keep it all to himself? Especially with Lily's perfect figure, a slender frame supporting such bountiful assets. Leo suspected that if they ever had kids, they might need digestive aids just to handle breastfeeding. His blunt compliment made the innocent girl's heart flutter. What girl didn't like to be praised, especially by the man she loved most? You know, your body is incredible, Leo added, his gaze fixed on her. Lily's heart pounded, and she bit her lip, shyly looking away. She instinctively raised a hand to cover herself. TSK. Don't cover up, he commanded. I'm your boyfriend. What's wrong with looking? If you cover up, I'll just go look at other girls. You're so bad. Lily slowly lowered her arm. Her hurt, pitiable expression almost made him lose control right then and there. You really underestimate yourself. No other girl has a body like yours, he said, then added, I'm leaving. He gave her a loud smooch before finally getting off her. I have a meeting today. If I'm not coming back for dinner, I'll text you. Okay, Lily said, her cheeks red as she wiped her lips. Then she grabbed his arm. I have something I want to ask you. What is it? He asked, turning his head curiously. I want to ask Isabel to live with us. Is that okay? Lily asked, looking at him anxiously, trying to gauge his reaction. Huh? Why? Leo feigned surprise, though inside he was celebrating. We have such a nice life, just the two of us. Why would we have her move in? He'd been trying to figure out how to break this news to Lily, and here she was serving it up on a silver platter. Isabel said she and Maddie are lonely in the old apartment now that we're gone, Lily explained earnestly. She's helped me so much, and she even found a great elementary school for Grace. She waived months of rent for me back at the apartment. I want to repay her. Well, Leo stroked his chin, pretending to think it over. He didn't agree immediately. That would look too suspicious. A hesitant answer would make it seem like he'd given it careful thought. Leo, please? I'm begging you, Lily pleaded, sliding out from under the covers and pressing her gorgeous body against his back, her voice a sweet, cloying whine. I really want to help her. She won't take my money, so this is the only way. It was the first time he'd ever seen Lily act so proactively seductive. The combination of that alluring voice and her perfect body was both pure and utterly tempting. All right. What can I do? You're my girlfriend, Leo said with a helpless smile, nodding repeatedly. Fine by me. Let Isabel and Maddie move in. It'll give Grace a companion, and the house will be livelier. Thank you. Lily beamed, pressing a kiss to his cheek. It was clear how much she wanted to repay Isabel's kindness. Leo just chuckled. Don't mention it. After washing up, Leo drove his BMW to the main gate of the Willow Creek Estates and waited. More than half an hour later, Eleanor came jogging out, carrying a steaming bag. The holiday break wasn't officially over, and plenty of students were still soaking up their last days of freedom. Eleanor's piano studio was naturally closed. The piano was her one normal hobby, completely unrelated to making money. As a result, the young heiress had been having the time of her life, constantly pestering Leo to take her out, completely unconcerned with student enrollment numbers. She'd even tag along to his media company several times in the past few days. For you, Leo, Eleanor said with a bright smile as she got into the car, handing him the bag. These are shrimp dumplings and soup dumplings my housekeeper, Mrs. Davis, made. They had texted a few minutes earlier, and when she heard he hadn't eaten, Eleanor had her housekeeper whip them up. Thanks. Just put it down for now. I'm running a little late. There's a whole team waiting for me at the office, Leo said with a grateful smile. He stepped on the gas, one hand on the steering wheel, the other reflexively landing on Eleanor's thigh, stroking it gently. He felt like things with the heiress were starting to have a real dating vibe, just like when he and Chloe first got together. Then I'll feed you, Eleanor said, picking up a shrimp dumpling and holding it to his lips. She mimicked the playful voice he'd once used to tease her. Here comes the airplane. You're ridiculous, Leo said, rolling his eyes, but he didn't refuse her offer. He turned his head and ate the dumpling, playfully licking her fingers in the process. Feeling the touch on her fingertips, Eleanor stared at her own hand, her expression freezing for a second. Her breathing visibly quickened. What the hell? Are you trying to be gross? Leo yelled, frowning. You were normal for a little while there. Can you please not be so weird? The young heiress's face was flushed, and she was panting heavily. After a moment, she asked innocently, Is it gross? We've already kissed. Leo felt like crying. Oh my God, is that the same thing? I don't see a problem with it, Eleanor said, her fair skin turning a noticeable shade of red that had nothing to do with shyness. Do you want another one? She asked, her eyes hazy as she picked up another translucent dumpling and held it to his lips. God, no. Leo snapped his head away, his skin crawling. Look, I can't play your games. I'm driving. I'll eat later. Okay, Eleanor said, putting the dumpling aside. She slowly calmed down, her eyes gradually regaining their clarity. Sigh, this is a lot. Just a few days ago, Leo had thought Eleanor's forwardness was a plus. But coming on this strong was something else entirely. A pure-hearted romantic like him just couldn't handle it. Just then his phone buzzed. It was a message from Derek Flynn, whom he'd met back in L.A. He was asking where Leo was. The staff was waiting for him to start the meeting. When Leo was just getting his start in the film industry, Derek had helped him out a lot. While there was certainly an element of sucking up, the help had been genuine. Now that the company was officially up and running, Leo naturally wanted to invite him along to make some money. Of course, Leo wasn't arrogant enough to make some cringy promise that joining his company was a guaranteed path to riches. Instead, he had humbly told him that the company was just starting out and asked if he'd be interested in collaborating on a freelance basis. That way, Derek could help out without having to quit his other gigs. Derek had thought it over for a long time before agreeing, mainly for two reasons. First, Leo's debut project had sold for a fortune, proving his skills in directing and storytelling were top-notch. Derek figured he'd just be responsible for shooting some scenes, so there was no way he could lose, and it wouldn't interfere with his other work. Second, Derek had always believed that Leo had the backing of the legendary director Arthur Shaw. Sticking with Leo might just be his ticket to bigger opportunities. Not only that, but when Derek joined, he brought several reliable crew members with him. They had all quit other projects to jump ship to Leo's company, all of them chasing the prestige of Arthur Shaw. What they didn't know was that Leo's current abilities were far more bugged than Shaw's. He just didn't have the fame. Yet, after parking at the company, Leo notified the department heads to gather in the conference room. He then began to outline the concept for the company's first film. The script he'd been writing was a crime thriller, a cerebral duel between the police and the mob, with moles on both sides. The plot was incredibly intricate. If they could bring the main and hidden storylines to life through the actors and cinematography, it would be a masterpiece of the genre. In the conference room, after hearing Leo's summary, the team exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions a mix of confusion and concern. Ever since the golden age of Hong Kong crime thrillers had faded, the genre had been in a slump in the American market. In recent years, its reputation had plummeted. Many directors who specialized in crime films wouldn't dare touch the genre, now known as box office poison. A crime thriller, Derek said, his expression troubled. Leo, that genre isn't doing so well in the market right now. The others nodded in agreement. They all felt that tackling such a risky genre for the company's debut was too dangerous. It would be safer to follow the trend and make a comedy to earn some quick cash and build a solid foundation before taking on bigger risks. We shouldn't blame a film's failure on its genre, Leo said, addressing the room with confidence. As long as our film is high quality and the plot is solid, even a dead genre can pull in decent numbers. I think the film market is a lot like the fiction market. Everyone rushes to produce what's currently making money, but they neglect the genres they're actually good at or other genres that have the potential to be hits. That's a major flaw in the current market. After all, if you can make money, who's going to slave away for a dream? It just becomes a question of making more or less. In reality, if a film has good acting, solid promotion, and a great script, it's going to be profitable. If you have all that, and then you add a truly phenomenal screenplay into the mix, the result can be explosive. After hearing Leo's professional analysis, the team members looked enlightened, but there was still a hint of hesitation in their eyes. No one could guarantee the final product would turn out the way Leo described. And besides, none of them had even read the script yet. The production meeting for the new film lasted for over an hour, after which Leo was immediately pulled into other matters. With the media company just starting out, there was a mountain of paperwork and decisions that required his personal approval. He had barely sat down in his office before people started knocking, holding files for him to review and sign. The executives from various departments also came by every so often to discuss the new film. Budget, release, schedule, shooting locations, casting. All these projects required cold, hard cash to get started and needed repeated confirmation with Leo. He spent over an hour in the Human Resources Department, discussing at length with the department head, Dylan Fong, and Derek about what caliber of actors to cast for their new movie. Both Dylan and Derek argued that the modern internet landscape was all about clout. They wanted to persuade Leo to hire a trending young star who had both a massive following and decent acting chops. Leo, however, believed that a young heartthrob's acting skills wouldn't be able to carry the weight of his new film. He insisted on casting major A-listers who had both talent and star power, legends like Al Pacino or a comeback king like Robert Downey Jr. Actors with both the looks and the skill. The moment Leo floated the idea, Dylan nearly had a heart attack. He argued that for a new company to pursue such huge stars was an insane risk, not to mention the astronomical budget. First, there was no guarantee these A-listers would even consider an offer from an unknown small company, especially since the film was in a niche genre. Even if they managed to land them with a mountain of cash, if the movie bombed at the box office, the company's reputation in the industry would be destroyed. In a worst-case scenario, it could lead to a situation where no reputable actor would ever work with them again. As the director and chairman, Leo didn't see Dylan as stubborn or overstepping his bounds. On the contrary, he saw him as a dedicated professional. His role was head of HR. It was his job to discuss these matters with him. If Dylan had just blindly followed whatever Leo said without thinking, Leo would have considered him incompetent, lacking his own critical thinking. A company where everyone in every position does their job, bravely offers suggestions based on their expertise, and where superiors humbly listen and analyze those suggestions. That kind of team was bound to go far. It would certainly last longer than companies rife with backstabbing and office politics. Leo had already used his divine eye ability to check out all the key employees. Everyone currently working at his company was genuinely skilled. Of course, what ultimately convinced Dylan and Derek was Leo's screenplay. The plot was so intricate and cerebral that if it were leaked, the entire film would be ruined. So far, Leo had only shown the script to those two. The others only knew he was making a crime thriller, but had no idea about the plot details. After reading it, both men were stunned by the mind-bending and original premise. Paired with the acting prowess of the A-listers Leo had in mind, they both agreed the film had serious potential. A typical trending star really wouldn't be able to deliver the kind of performance it required. And so, Dylan began contacting the agents of those Hollywood A-listers. After another hour of discussing the film's direction with Derek, it was already 7 in the evening. Leo returned to his office, planning to take Eleanor out for dinner and a stroll around the city center. Eleanor, back in his spacious office, Leo was surprised to find the young heiress gone. She had been playing on her phone there just a moment ago. Where'd she go? Leo checked the attached lounge, but didn't find her. He stood in the doorway for a moment, hands on his hips, confused, until his gaze fell upon his large, curved desk. Shit. No way. Leo's mouth twitched. He walked straight to the inner side of the desk. Looking down, he saw her. The young heiress was sitting in the leg space under the desk, her legs, clad in fleece-lined jeans, stretched out, her head resting against the chair as she slept soundly. Just as he'd imagined, the space under the desk was huge, more than enough for Eleanor to move around freely. Eleanor, wake up. Leo gently shook her shoulder. The young heiress groggily opened her eyes, smacking her soft pink lips a few times as she looked up at him sleepily. Are you done with work? Yeah, all done, Leo said with a smile. There's a bed in the lounge. Why didn't you sleep there? What were you doing sleeping here? The young heiress stretched lazily and, in the calmest way possible, said the most outrageous thing. I wanted to see what it felt like to be in a submissive space. I fell asleep by accident. Jesus, can you please be normal for once? Leo's face flushed. He quickly pulled Eleanor out from under the desk and considerately patted the dust off her backside. The company's renovation wasn't fully complete yet, and his office still needed a professional cleaning. Honestly, can you not make me worry all the time? Leo grumbled. If you catch a cold from this, your old man is definitely going to have my head. For some reason, his attitude toward Eleanor was different from his other girlfriends. It was more like a weary father dealing with a mischievous daughter. Eleanor smiled radiantly, watching Leo pat the dust off her. Her eyes grew hazy as she urged him on. Leo, you could be a little rougher. 1. Don't be crazy. There are people outside. If someone sees, I might as well just start shooting porn for real. 2. Can you please not be like this all the time? I prefer it when you're normal. 3. Lock the door and give her what she wants. Don't be crazy. There are people outside, Leo said, his heart pounding. If someone sees, I might as well just start shooting porn for real. Oh, the heiress mumbled, disappointed. She raised a hand and absent-mindedly stroked his short hair. I'm at my wit's end with you, Leo said, unable to resist her expectant gaze. He discreetly increased the force of his pats, with the final one landing after he lifted the hem of her down jacket. A muffled thud echoed briefly in the office. Leo. It was the first time Leo had ever fulfilled one of Eleanor's wishes like that. The stinging sensation on her thigh sent a shiver of pleasure through her entire body. She threw her arms around him, overjoyed, and confessed with breathless excitement. I like you so much. Damn it, I'm only like this because of you, Leo said, his own breathing becoming ragged. The young heiress looked up, her eyes filled with exhilaration and joy, and said without a care in the world, It's okay. I'll take responsibility. I like you just like this. Ding. Eleanor Hayes' affinity for the host has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 73. Please continue your efforts. Leo's last swat had been a bit too forceful. The sting on Eleanor's leg hadn't faded by the time they left the office. The expression on the young heiress's face was one of pure, ecstatic bliss. Leo had actually treated her roughly today, just the way she liked it. As they walked out of the office, she clung to his arm like a conquered little girlfriend, unable to let go. Before heading to dinner, Leo took her to the newly finished prop room, led by the prop master, to inspect the inventory. The head of the prop department was a woman named Anna Schwang, 26 years old, another recommendation from Derek. She was slightly prettier than average, with a gentle personality and a strong work ethic. Anna had previously worked on several high-rating variety shows as a prop master for a household name celebrity. That celebrity boss of hers had been canceled over a personal scandal that had been all over the news recently. As a result, Anna had been collateral damage. She tried several media companies, but no one dared to hire her. Anna's skills were excellent, and her rates were very reasonable. Of course, Leo was willing to hire such a high-value, low-cost employee. What did the boss's actions have to do with the staff? As long as an employee hadn't broken the law or committed any ethical violations, was dedicated to their work, and had outstanding abilities, Leo would take them on without hesitation. The prop room contained many items Derek had brought over. They were props he didn't need for his current shoot, so he had them moved to Leo's company, saying Leo could use them however he wanted. It was a common social maneuver, a way of currying favor. It didn't matter if the other person needed the items or not. As long as the gift wasn't completely useless, the gesture would be remembered. It was a way to earn maximum goodwill for minimal cost. While Leo was discussing the props needed for the new film with Anna, Eleanor's eyes lit up. She rummaged through a prop box and pulled out a pair of nunchucks. Leo, look. Nunchucks, the heiress exclaimed, starting to swing them. Her speed increased, and a joyful smile spread across her delicate face. "Are you a kid?" Leo said with a chuckle. "Be careful you don't hit yourself in the head." I won't." Before Eleanor could finish her sentence, the nunchucks she was twirling smacked her right on the back of the head with a crisp thwack. "Eleanor." "Leo. Are you okay?" Leo walked over, exasperated but amused, and gently rubbed the back of her head. "I told you to be careful, but you never listen. Hurts, doesn't it?" It doesn't hurt anymore," Eleanor said with a goofy grin, leaning against him like a delicate bird. She blinked her sparkling eyes, looking up at him with pure adoration. The heiress was absolutely loving today's Leo, tender and caring, yet rough. "Ahem, the props I mentioned, you can go ahead and order them," Leo said, holding Eleanor and glancing back at Anna. "If we need anything else, just message me." "Got it." Anna rubbed her nose. After so many years in the film industry, she was used to these kinds of ambiguous situations. She tactfully left the prop room. "I told you, don't mess around when other people are here," Leo said, his arms around the heiress's slender waist, his tone a mix of helplessness and indulgence. "You know my situation. It's fine. You're the boss." "I bet she wouldn't dare tell anyone about us," the heiress whispered, a hint of triumphant satisfaction in her eyes. Leo nodded, pleased. "Not bad. You're starting to act more and more like a powerful, wealthy person." I learned from the best," the heiress hummed happily. In the dimly lit prop room, the atmosphere between them grew intimate. "Leo, what is it? Kiss me," Eleanor demanded, standing on her tiptoes, her tone expectant and a little bit willful. Right now, she seemed just like a spoiled, rich young lady experiencing her first crush. "I'm helpless against you." Leo caressed her smooth cheek, tilted his head slightly, and leaned down, slowly capturing her thin lips with his. The heiress was the classic case of all talk and no game. She was out of breath in less than a minute, but she continued to clumsily try and keep up with him. Leo's skills, however, were on another level now, enhanced by the system's talents. No matter how inexperienced she was, a master kisser like him could carry the whole thing. A few minutes later, the heiress was panting, pressed against his chest. She looked up at him, her eyes hazy and lost in the moment. "Ow, how can it feel so good? You're amazing at this." Leo just smiled without a word, gently stroking her flushed cheek. "All right, it's getting late. Let's go get something to eat. After dinner, I'll take you for a walk around the downtown shopping district." Okay. They linger in the prop room for a few more moments before finally leaving the company, wrapped up in each other. After dinner, Leo took Eleanor for a stroll through a bustling shopping mall. Around 10 at night, they were walking side by side down a lively commercial street, each holding a cup of hot boba tea. Before long, fat snowflakes began to drift down from the sky. "Cold?" Leo asked, pulling up the collar of her sweater. In the past, raising his two younger sisters had taught him how to take care of a girl's physical comfort. Now, thanks to the system, he had become an expert at managing a girl's emotions. The combination of the two was nearly irresistible. "A little," Eleanor admitted frankly. She really did hate the cold. "How about now?" Leo intertwined his fingers with hers, then tucked her cold little hand into his coat pocket. He remembered doing the same thing with Chloe once. "He is still a little cold, but I'm so happy, Leo." Eleanor's heart felt warm and sweet. She looked up at him, her face radiant with joy. Just then, her phone buzzed. Leo let go of her hand, tossed his boba cup into a nearby trash can, and then held out his arm. The heiress happily snuggled up against him, letting him wrap his arm around her slender waist. Leo pulled out his phone and, without any attempt to hide it, opened the message. It was from Chloe, reminding him to pick her up at the airport the day after tomorrow. Right there in front of Eleanor, Leo replied to Chloe, even adding a flirtatious sticker. "Is that your first girlfriend? She's very pretty." Leo and Chloe had been texting frequently these past few weeks, and she often shared photos from her hometown. Their chat history was filled with her cute selfies. "What's that supposed to mean? Is it so shameful to be my fourth girlfriend?" Leo put his phone away, looking down at her with a playful glint in his eye, tightening his grip on her waist just a fraction. Damn it, Leo, you really are a player." The heiress playfully punched his chest, then snuggled even closer, tilting her head back to look up at him with a deeply affectionate hum. "And I just had a fall for you, didn't I?" On the morning of the 17th, the sun was bright. The biting cold of winter was finally beginning to retreat, replaced by a welcoming warmth. Winter was turning to spring, and the earth was slowly awakening. The world, once blanketed in ice and snow, was melting to reveal a new landscape. The frigid north wind had softened into a gentle, warm breeze that caressed people's faces, carrying the first hints of spring. The festive holiday atmosphere had faded. Whether in the decadent circles of high society or the bustling lives of the working class, the world was getting back to business. Workers were clearing the last of the snow from the streets. Shops large and small were taking down their closed signs, cleaning tables and chairs in preparation for reopening. The next day was the first day of school for most students, and for the past few days, the roads had been packed with parents driving their kids back to campus. Leo woke up very early. He had two important things to do today. 1. Isabel and Maddie were officially moving in today, joining him and the Reed sisters. 2. He had promised Chloe he would pick her up from the airport at 3 in the afternoon, and then they were going to see and set up her new apartment near the university. These two events were his entry tickets to the delicate game of harmony he would have to play from now on. He had to handle them with extreme care. While Leo was washing up, the doorbell rang. Since he couldn't get it, Lily, who was in the middle of making breakfast, took off her apron and went to the door. Standing on the doorstep were Isabel and Maddie. "Auntie Lily," Maddie squealed, throwing her arms around Lily's legs. The little girl was so excited about moving in with Leo and the Reed sisters that she had barely slept the night before, waking Isabel up at the crack of dawn to pack and come over. "Good morning, Maddie," Lily said, smiling as she ruffled the little girl's hair. She noticed Isabel only had one suitcase and asked curiously, "Isabel, I'm not heading to campus until tonight. Do you need any help with your other luggage?" "This is it, just some personal things. We can buy whatever else we need later," Isabel said, lifting the suitcase slightly. She looked at Lily with a conflicted expression. "Are you sure it's moving and won't be a bother for you and Leo?" "Not all." Leo said it too. "Having you here will make the house feel more alive," Lily said with a casual smile, then added gratefully, "Besides, you've helped me so much with everything, and you found such a great school for Grace. I don't even know how to thank you." "It was nothing, don't worry about it," Isabel said, taking the innocent girl's hand. Her voice was full of genuine emotion. "Maddie and I were just getting restless. We're only staying for a little while. We won't bother you and Leo for long. You and Leo need to build a good life together." "Yes, I will," Lily replied, her eyes full of hope. "Well, who do we have here?" Leo, finished with his morning routine, saw his two women holding hands at the door, sharing a heartfelt moment. Not wanting to spoil the mood, he directed his greeting to Maddie. "Now," the little girl started, then quickly corrected herself mid-run. "Big brother Leo." "Whoa, Maddie, you got so big over the holidays. I can barely lift you anymore," Leo said, hoisting the chubby little girl into his arms. "Hee, just a little bit," she giggled, wrapping her arms around his neck and making a tiny gesture with her fingers, happily admitting it. The little girl had done nothing but eat and sleep over the break, so she had definitely gained some weight. But for a kid, it didn't matter, as long as it wasn't too extreme. "Perfect. Big brother Leo hasn't had breakfast yet. No. Mommy, Auntie Lily, save me." The little girl pushed at Leo's face with her chubby little hands, her gleeful cries for help directed at the two women standing behind her, who were watching with fond smiles. The spring sunlight pierced through the thick, cold clouds, streaming in through the floor-to-ceiling windows and mingling with the sounds of laughter. Everything felt so peaceful and beautiful. While the five of them were eating breakfast, Leo was messaging Dylan about budget issues when a message from Maya suddenly popped up. "Maya understood her for behaving. Hey bestie, want to hit up Lunar Phase Gaming Cafe in a bit? We can play for a while, and then go pick up your little girlfriend this afternoon." Cute emoji. In the disaster zone to come, Chloe would be the most difficult of his girlfriends to manage. When she found out the truth, she would be incredibly hard to placate. Maya was, without a doubt, the most crucial player in his entire strategy. With her, plus the heiress and Isabel on his side, Leo could absolutely pull off a miraculous recovery and stabilize the two most difficult fronts, Chloe and Lily. Leo had been wondering how he could find an excuse to connect with Maya, and here she was, extending an olive branch herself. "Offline mode, sure. I'm eating breakfast now. I'll head over when I'm done. Have you eaten? Want me to bring you something?" Ding. Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 2 points. Current affinity, 12. Please continue your efforts. Oh, just offering to bring breakfast can raise her affinity? Leo was surprised that his casual, polite offer had yielded such an unexpected result. Combining that with Maya's taste for older, more mature men, Leo took a moment to think. He knew how to handle this seemingly well-defended but secretly needy best friend. "Maya understood her for behaving. Oh, so now that your girlfriend's not around, you're trying to brazenly hit on her best friend? Huh?" Screenshotting this and sending it to Chloe. Smug emoji. Offline mode. Is it a crime to offer you breakfast now? What did I do to deserve this so early in the morning? Smile emoji. My underscore behaving. Ha, just kidding. I already ate. Don't worry about it. Laughing emoji. Offline mode. Okay, signing off. Be there soon. Sweating emoji. Leo cleanly into the conversation and put his phone down. Maya and Chloe were very close, and Maya was by far the most savvy girl he had encountered so far. He absolutely could not use any obvious flirting techniques on her. It was no exaggeration to say that the moment Maya suspected he was interested in her, she would turn around and send all the evidence to Chloe. Then he would lose both the girl and the game. So, for a girl who valued her friendship so much and played the game at such a high level, how could he win her over without her ratting him out to her best friend? It was simple. The best strategy was no strategy. He just had to interact with her normally and never show any overt intention of pursuing her. During their time together, he would observe her interests, her likes, and the kind of atmosphere she enjoyed, and then, from those angles, as a normal friend, he would strike when she least expected it. Sooner or later, she would be his. Big brother Leo, I want to go play in the yard with Grace, Maddie said after breakfast, climbing onto Leo's lap. The two women were clearing the table. Leo's villa had a large private yard where the two little girls often played. They had even planted a Christmas tree there with Eleanor, decorated with little gift boxes. However, the yard was close to the swimming pool. Even though the pool was empty, it was still a safety hazard. It would be dangerous if one of them fell in. So, before Maddie and Grace could play in the yard, they had to get permission from Isabel or Leo, or have an adult with them. Maddie was snuggling up to Leo, turning on the charm, while Grace stood quietly beside them, blinking her big, round eyes and sneaking glances at him. Over the past few weeks, Grace had gotten used to life in a villa, but deep down, she still wanted to go back to her grandmother. She had told Lily several times that she wanted to return to Idaho, but Lily wasn't in a position to make that decision. Her own life was dictated by Leo. Besides, she wanted her sister to experience a better life in the city, so she could only make excuses. A child's thinking is simple. She believed this was all Leo's fault. On top of that, she still resented him for separating her from her grandmother, so she remained reluctant to get close to him. Leo, of course, had noticed the little girl's issues. He had just been too busy lately to deal with them. Otherwise, it would only take a few moves for him to have her completely wrapped around his finger. Seriously, if her older sister couldn't handle him, what chance did the little one have? Go ahead, Leo said, ruffling Maddie's hair. But he was still worried about their safety and warned them with a stern face. But let's get one thing straight. No playing near the pool. If you do, you won't be allowed to go out there anymore. Got it? Okay. Maddie nodded happily. Grace, too, couldn't help but show a flicker of an excited smile. When Leo glanced at her, Grace's cheeks turned slightly red. She pouted and looked away, refusing to meet his gaze. Her willful yet sweet and shy demeanor was an exact copy of her sister, Lily. Perhaps realizing that everything she had now was because of Leo, and that the yard she wanted to play in was his, the little girl turned back and gave him a tiny, almost imperceptible nod of thanks. Leo was a little surprised. This girl was so young, yet she could already make such a clear distinction between her feelings. It was almost frightening. Soon, the two little girls were holding hands, running happily toward the private yard. Isabel, having clearly heard the conversation, called out a reminder, Maddie, don't go near the pool, you hear me? We know. After clearing the dishes, Isabel went upstairs to unpack in her room. Leo's villa had a 7-bedroom layout. With 2 girls, 2 women, and 1 man each taking a bedroom, there were still 2 spare rooms. Since Lily had to study and Leo needed space to write and play games, they each had their own separate room, though Leo frequently spent his nights in Lily's. Seriously, what man with a beautiful girlfriend at home would be willing to sleep alone? Who would want to wake up in a sea of tenderness every morning? Isabel's room was next to Lily's. It had great natural light, and Lily had specifically chosen it for her. Before Isabel arrived, Lily had cleaned the room from top to bottom, so now Isabel and Maddie could just move right in. Isabel, this villa is pretty big. When you get up to use the bathroom at night, make sure you don't get lost, Leo said, leaning against the doorframe with a mischievous glint in his eye. If you need anything, you can come ask me. My room is the first one in the hallway. Aren't you supposed to be leaving? Get going, Isabel said, knowing exactly what he meant. A fleeting blush crossed her face. The magic is gone. Our connection has faded, Leo said with a look of disappointment. We finally get to see each other, and you're already trying to kick me out? Go, stop causing trouble here. That girl is still downstairs, Isabel warned him seriously. She looked around the clean and tidy room and murmured guiltily, Leo, Are we being too cruel, hiding this from her? Thinking of how much the innocent Lily trusted her, Isabel's heart ached with guilt. Leo cut straight to the point. Isabel, do you feel like you're stealing her man? Isabel gave a bitter smile. What else would you call it? Do you really think I moved in with you too because I was bored? Then you can rest easy, because you'll never be able to steal me, Leo said with a careless smile. Because I belong to both of you, and you both belong to me. We can all just live together peacefully. And, he added, you don't need to feel guilty toward her. The only one who should feel guilty is me. It has nothing to do with you. Besides, I'm not going to abandon her. Since I'm with her, I'm going to take care of her for the rest of her life. So you don't plan on marrying her? Isabel asked, her feelings complicated. I want to, Leo grumbled petulantly. But if I did, you would definitely leave me, and I can't bear that. Ah, you kid. You really are a player, Isabel said after hearing his words, which were both deeply affectionate and shamelessly manipulative. She paused, at a loss for words, before finally letting out a helpless, resigned laugh. She went back to making her bed, a faint, complex smile on her lips. So, she held a pretty high place in this kid's heart after all. All right, Isabel, now that you've moved in, let's just live our lives together. Don't worry about all that other stuff, Leo said, reaching out and giving her round, firm backside a pat. The sound was a dull thud. After being swatted away by a glaring Isabel, Leo left the room, completely satisfied. As soon as he stepped out, he ran right into Lily, who was carrying a comforter. The shock almost made him jump. Are you leaving now? Lily asked, holding the thick down comforter, a radiant smile on her face. Ahem, Lily, you don't have to go to all this trouble, Isabel said, coming out of the room. She took the comforter from Lily and then reminded a dazed Leo. Aren't you supposed to be going to work? Get a move on, right? Hubby has to go make money. Come here, wifey, give me a kiss, Leo said, snapping out of it. He grinned and leaned in to kiss Lily right in front of Isabel. Lily shyly dodged him, embarrassed to be affectionate in front of someone else. Isabel felt a pang of jealousy, but mostly it was a feeling of resigned acceptance. When she got together with Leo, she had always hoped the three of them could live together. TSK, no fun. I'll deal with you tonight, Leo pouted. As he walked past the two women, he heard Lily ask curiously, Isabel, did you hear a sound just now? Huh, I didn't hear anything, Isabel said with a slightly panicked smile. You must have misheard. Did I? Lily mumbled, still suspicious. She felt like she had just heard a familiar sound, almost like, Lily, yes. Hearing Leo call her name, Lily snapped out of her thoughts. What is it? Leo slapped his jeans, making a sharp smack-smack sound. These pants are a little wrinkled. Remember to iron them for me when you have a chance. Okay, I will, Lily replied after a moment's pause, her tone obedient. That tiny seedling of suspicion was casually crushed into dust by Leo. Tomorrow was the first day of the new semester, and today, the Lunar Phase Gaming Cafe was packed to the gills with fresh-faced college students, all there for one last day of unrestrained fun. Leo found Maya in a private two-person booth, completely absorbed in her game. The cafe was so busy today that Maya, worried someone else would take the spot before Leo arrived, had paid for a temporary pass just to hold the machine for him. The weather was nice, so Maya was dressed in a lighter, yet still mature and sexy style. She wore a black jacket over a pair of black jeans. Even the light makeup on her face exuded a charm that was a mix of youthful innocence and adult allure, making it hard to believe she was only a college freshman. Any student who thought about asking if the seat next to her was taken would immediately be scared off by her bad girl aura. Leo also noticed an open pack of cigarettes next to her, a rare brand of Slims. There were already several cigarette butts on the floor by her feet. He wasn't surprised. He already knew from Chloe that Maya smoked. Fuck, this jungler just farms all game. Leo had been watching her play for a bit when Maya cursed under her breath. Only then did she notice him sitting beside her. Her face lit up. Bestie, you're finally here. Quick, get on my smuff and carry me. Diamond rank is hell. I told you not to play ranked. Aram is so much better, Leo said with a shake of his head, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he logged into the smuff account she'd sent him. The ID. Cilantro, go away. Maya just grinned. Aram doesn't have the same prestige. Ranked is more exciting. Yeah, exciting for you, Leo thought. A tragedy for anyone who gets you as a teammate. While they were in queue, Leo ordered 2 hot boba teas from a nearby coffee shop. Maya started scrolling through TikTok, making no effort to chat with him. After all, he was her best friend's boyfriend. They didn't really have anything to talk about. From the corner of his eye, Leo watched the videos Maya was scrolling through. They were all either of sophisticated older men or couples being lovey-dovey. As she watched, a faint, envious smile touched the corners of her well-defined lips. The TikTok algorithm didn't lie. These videos confirmed that Maya really was into the older, daddy type. It also showed that she was currently desperate for a sweet romance of her own. Leo didn't back down. Instead, he started thinking about how to break the slightly cold atmosphere between them. As the saying goes, a girl's standards are only for the men she doesn't like. Once a guy truly gets in her heart, she'll throw all those so-called standards out the window. Chloe told me you got into some trouble online a while back, got doxxed. Leo threw out a sensitive topic, taking a sharp angle. Doxing, maliciously publishing someone's private information online to incite harassment, was a nasty form of cyberbullying. Maya had a history of tricking geeky gamers into playing with her to boost her rank, then blocking them the moment they suggested meeting up. It was only natural that this extreme behavior would cause some backlash. Leo himself had been scammed out of money and game points by an e-girl like that once. The only difference was that Maya didn't scam people for money, just for help climbing the ranks, which was a unique kind of integrity, in a way. Leo figured the reason she was playing alone now was probably because she was worried about those people tracking her down. Maya paused her scrolling, taken aback. You two really are a couple, huh? Chloe tells you everything. It's not exactly a state secret, Leo said with a shrug, pressing on. They haven't come to bother you in person, have they? Maya bit her lip, hesitating for a moment before forcing a smile. They're just a bunch of keyboard warriors. Nothing to be afraid of. We live in a society with laws. Seeing her strained expression, Leo knew it wasn't that simple. It had to be affecting her real life. 1. Hey, you deserve it. That's what you get for leading on all those geeky gamers. Scared now, are you? We geeks aren't that easy to mess with. 2. If you run into anything you can't handle, let me know. You're my girlfriend's best friend. You don't have to deal with it alone. 3. Want to be my 5th girlfriend? I can make sure you can walk sideways through Portland without anyone daring to mess with you. If you run into anything you can't handle, let me know, Leo said as he selected his champion. He took one of the cigarettes from the pack next to her, lit it, and exhaled a thin stream of smoke, his voice calm and casual. You're my girlfriend's best friend. You don't have to deal with it alone. I met a lot of people through my film work. I can handle a few small-time trolls. Ding. Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 2 points. Current affinity, 14. Please continue your efforts. Oh, Leo, are you hitting on me? Through the hazy smoke, Maya looked at his calm expression, her eyes glinting with amusement. What will Chloe do when she finds out? Don't overthink it. You're my girlfriend's friend. A fox doesn't raid the henhouse it lives next to, Leo said, completely unfazed. He took a drag from the long, thin cigarette. The main thing is, if I have the ability to help, and I don't, Chloe would chew me out for it. Ding. Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 1 point. Current affinity, 15. Please continue your efforts. Not bad, not bad. You got some principles, Leo, Maya said with a satisfied nod. My good words about you weren't wasted after all. But, at the end of the day, this is still your fault. Why do you have to go and lead on all those clueless gamer nerds? You should stop doing that in the future, Leo lectured, then followed up with a solemn promise. But, since you're my girlfriend's best friend, even if you get into bigger trouble, I'll still unconditionally have your back. Ding. Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 20. Please continue your efforts. Hearing the system's notification, Leo blew a leisurely smoke ring. It seemed his strategy and his choice of words were spot on. Hey, what are you doing? Leo turned to look at Maya, who was staring blankly. Pick your champion, or you'll dodge the cue. Oh, I was just thinking, Maya said with a small, embarrassed laugh. A flicker of panic crossed her eyes, and she quickly turned back to the screen, locking in her usual comfort pick, Yummy. But her heart, betraying her, skipped a few beats. The reason Leo's words had such a strong effect on Maya was simple. She was also a girl who lacked a sense of security. In fact, most girls who liked older men lacked that sense of security. It was just that Maya was exceptionally good at putting up a front. Both her style and her attitude gave her peers the impression that she was not to be trifled with. In reality, it was just a subconscious defense mechanism. Her inner self was probably more fragile than Chloe's. Her only real weapon was her sharp tongue. Why were older men so popular with younger women? The reason was simple. They had more life experience, better financial stability, and they knew how to take care of a woman, providing a sense of security that girls often couldn't find in men their own age. That was the main reason so many young women were drawn to older men in modern society. Maya had an abusive father and was at that prime age where she craved a relationship. It was only natural that she would set her sights on an older man as her ideal partner. But it didn't have to be someone a decade older. As long as you could give a girl like her that feeling of absolute security, you could have her eating out of the palm of your hand. That was the main reason for Leo's earlier offer. By telling Maya he could solve problems she couldn't, he was subtly instilling in her a sense of security. As the game was loading, a delivery driver pushed open the door to their booth. The hot boba tea Leo had ordered had arrived. Here, this is yours. Leo handed the drink to Maya. She took it surprised. Thanks, but why did you order delivery? I remember this place sells boba tea. I glanced at the counter when I came in. There were dozens of orders lined up, Leo explained calmly, poking a straw into his cup. It's so crowded today. Who knows how long it would have taken for them to bring it to us. Ding. Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 2 points. Current affinity, 22. Please continue your efforts. You really know how to live, Maya said, a hint of envy in her eyes as she offered the faint praise. Huh? Isn't that just common sense? Leo blinked innocently. Maya obviously wasn't going to say to her best friend's boyfriend, "You're exactly my type," so she just pursed her lips and turned her attention back to the game. Leo's gaming skills hadn't rusted. With his enhanced reaction speed, he could easily dominate a mere diamond-level game. What was the highest level of carrying a girl in a game? It was making sure she had fun, maximizing her emotional satisfaction throughout the match. If all you did was mindlessly steamroll the enemy, winning game after game just to boost her rank without engaging her emotions, you would just be a tool. Leo wouldn't make such a rookie mistake. He orchestrated the matches. In a game that was a total stomp, he'd accidentally die a few times, claiming he was out of practice, letting the enemy get a foothold before single-handedly turning the tide for a dramatic comeback. In a game that was a complete disaster, Leo would patiently coax his tilted teammates, looking for any opportunity for a comeback, and then lead the four of them to a hard-fought victory. Maya was a terrible player, but Leo didn't mind. When they were winning, he'd find a good reason to praise her. When they were losing, he'd patiently teach her what to do. After a few games, the emotional value he provided was immense. Even if he miscalculated and they lost a game or two, Maya was all smiles. That was the kind of gamer who could actually get the girl. If you followed Leo's playbook for a few games, sooner or later, you'd have a whole pond full of fish. Guys who just mindlessly bragged about their skills would only get a few polite words from a girl. In reality, she wouldn't be taking them seriously at all. Some e-girls would even find that kind of player incredibly cringe and might even call them out online. Ding! Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 27. Please continue your efforts. After a few games, Maya's affinity had risen by another 5 points. Leo, was my Yumi insane or what? I got a 5-man ULT just now. Maya exclaimed, a cigarette held between her slender fingers, after they had just won a particularly tough comeback game. Nice. You're a real Yumi main, Leo teased with a smile. Ever considered going pro? Give Faker a run for his money. Haha, you're too much. Maya laughed, delighted, and gave him a playful shove. Only after the fact did she realize the gesture was a bit too intimate for their relationship. Ahem, let's play one more, and then we'll go pick up Chloe, Maya said, putting the cigarette to her lips. She expertly flicked a lighter, and the hazy smoke concealed the faint, imperceptible blush on her cheeks. TSK, you should smoke less, Leo said, frowning. He reached over and took the cigarette from her red lips. How many have you had in just a few games? He then put the slightly damp filter in his own mouth, waiting with a hint of tension for her reaction. 27 affinity was pretty high, but this was a risky move. It was, after all, an indirect kiss. Leo was testing her true feelings for him now. If Maya made some flirty, teasing remark to warn him off, it would mean she was still keenly aware of their relationship boundaries. He was her best friend's boyfriend, and she couldn't get too close. If she listened to him and didn't light another one, it would mean his position in her heart had already started to change. Oh, you're not my boyfriend, and you're not my dad. Who are you to tell me what to do? I'll smoke if I want to, Maya scoffed dismissively. She took out another cigarette, lit it, and went back to scrolling through TikTok. TSK. The ones who play hard to get really are on another level, Leo thought with a silent curse, deciding to pause his offensive for now. Pushing too hard would definitely make her suspicious. But then, he noticed a subtle detail. Maya's movements were slightly deliberate, as if she were trying to hide her face, leaving only a partial profile and a large expanse of her pale neck visible to him. Through the hazy smoke, Leo saw that the exposed part of her face was tinged with an undeniable blush, and the skin of her neck had turned a rosy pink. I'm going to the bathroom. If the queue pops, accept it for me, Maya said, her voice suddenly strained and nervous. She shot up from her chair, pushed open the booth door, and hurried toward the restroom. Leo leisurely blew a smoke ring, a smirk on his face. Right? A so-called player with no real-world experience. How could she possibly stand a chance against a king of the game like me? Around 2 in the afternoon, Leo and Maya left the Lunar Phase Gaming Cafe, planning to drive to the airport to pick up Chloe. As they walked toward the underground parking garage, Maya suddenly became much more talkative, intentionally and unintentionally tossing out topics she knew they were both interested in. Leo knew this was an important signal. He originally thought Maya would be tough to crack, but it turned out she was all talk, a challenger rank player in theory, but not in practice. She had her defenses up and played a good game, but she wasn't the experienced, man-eating player he'd anticipated. Once he found the right strategy, her affinity for him started climbing just like any other girl's. If Chloe hadn't been in the picture, if Maya didn't know he was her best friend's boyfriend, her affinity score would have already shot past 40 or 50. There was another crucial, almost imperceptible detail. When they got to the car, Maya instinctively went to the passenger side instead of the back seat. Typically, a man's passenger seat is reserved for his girlfriend. Any of the girlfriend's friends with common sense would consciously avoid that spot to prevent any gossip if an acquaintance saw them. With Maya's high emotional intelligence, there was no way she didn't know this. Her casual action was a subconscious tell, completely exposing her desire to get closer to him. Leo noticed this blind spot, but didn't say anything. Everything was going according to his plan. Oh shoot, I forgot. This is your little girlfriend's seat, Maya muttered with feigned surprise, her hands moving to unbuckle her seatbelt, though her movements were suspiciously slow. What does it matter? Leo replied with a smile. You two have been friends for years. You really care about this stuff? True, Maya said, nodding as if relieved. She flashed a triumphant smile. The only thing my girlfriend and I don't share is a boyfriend. One, no way. Please sit in the back. This is my girlfriend's exclusive seat. You can sit here when you become my girlfriend, too. 2. Brush the ash from her hair and use the opportunity to gently lecture her about her bad habit of smoking. 3. It's fine. Soon you won't have to share a boyfriend either. Best friends, one life to live. You're both my wings. You have some ash in your hair. If the system hadn't pointed it out, Leo wouldn't have noticed the tiny, hardened fleck of ash caught in Maya's short hair, probably from the private room earlier. Where? Maya gently ran her fingers through her hair. Is it still there? Right here. Leo leaned over, raising his hand to pluck it out. Maya's conditioned reflex was to pull back, but then something shifted. Driven by an inexplicable impulse, she leaned slightly closer to him, inventing a flimsy excuse. Be careful. Don't get it all over my hair. As Leo's fingers touched her hair, he could feel her hold her breath, her long eyelashes fluttering rapidly. She looked calm on the surface, but her heart was anything but. Just as he'd thought, Maya had the high-level game sense and emotional intelligence, probably far beyond other girls her age. But she had no real-world experience with this kind of proximity to a guy, only online flirtations. She was a keyboard warrior, a challenger in theory, but a rookie in practice. Otherwise, she wouldn't be losing her composure over a few simple moves from him. In today's world, there were plenty of girls like Maya. Their style and the way they talk gave off a deceptive impression of mature, high EQ confidence. But if you spent any real time with them, you'd find they weren't nearly as hard to win over as they seemed. Got it. Leo pinched the ash, wrapped it in a tissue, and started the car. With one hand on the steering wheel, he calmly admonished her. You're a girl. You should smoke less. Even I can't keep up with you. I'm quitting, Maya murmured, her mood turning somber. I used to smoke a pack a day. Now I can't even finish half a pack in 2 days. I just smoke a little more when I'm in a bad mood. Find something else to blow off steam. Be careful you don't actually cause some real damage. I don't know what your parents are like, Leo said, shaking his head in a lecturing tone, but if Chloe and I ever have a daughter and she's smoking and hanging out in gaming cafes like you, I'll break her legs. Ding. Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 32. Please continue your efforts. Leo was a little baffled. It was just a simple complaint. Why would her affinity for him go up? Oh, I see what you're doing. Don't think I didn't hear that. You want to be my dad, taking advantage of me, huh? Maya teased with a laugh, raising her hand as if to hit him. But Leo could feel an undeniable excitement in her voice, different from her usual playful banter. Don't mess around. I'm driving, Leo said, instinctively dodging. It confirmed his suspicion. His girlfriend's best friend was totally into older guys and starved for a father figure. I'm telling Chloe later. Let's see how she deals with you tonight. Maya, of course, wouldn't actually start roughhousing in the car, so she settled for an empty threat. Leo just scoffed. Tonight, even if both of you came at me, you wouldn't be able to handle me, he thought. But seriously, you have all this money now, your own company, and you're responsible. You're so much better than that monster of an old man I have at home. Maya stared at the road ahead, a dead look in her eyes as she laughed self-deprecatingly. If I could really trade, I'd rather call you Dad. Maya's father was an extremist who believed sons were superior to daughters. From the beginning, he'd never cared for her. The moment she was born, he'd dumped her with her grandparents in the countryside. She didn't move to Portland to live with her parents until middle school. During those years, her father frequently beat her and would often hit her mother right in front of her. Unable to stand her abusive father, Maya often tried to secretly set her mother up with a single man who lived next door, hoping her mom would finally divorce the abuser. But her mother refused, time and again, and would scold her, telling her to stay out of adult affairs. And so, Maya became completely disillusioned with her weak, passive mother and grew numb to her sham of a family. Other than asking for living expenses, she hadn't lived at home since starting school. The word father was both foreign and meaningless to her. She saw no harm in using it as a joke. But that one sentence nearly made Leo swerve off the road. He thought he must have misheard. Just as he was about to change the subject, the system's options popped up again. 1. Preach forgiveness. Don't say that. No matter what he's done wrong, he's still the one who raised you. You have to learn to be grateful. 2. Scold her seriously. Don't talk crazy like that. I'm her best friend's boyfriend. Have you ever thought about how Chloe would feel if she heard us talking like this? 3. Ruffle her hair. Come on, let me hear you say it. Call me Daddy. If you do, I'll take good care of you from now on. I'll give you whatever you want. How am I supposed to choose? Leo couldn't decide. Options 1 and 2 were both terrible. You can't tell someone to be magnanimous when you haven't walked in their shoes. Option 1 was classic armchair psychology, the kind of sanctimonious crap that would piss off not just Maya, but Leo himself. Option 2 was also a no-go. It would shatter the delicate, flirtatious atmosphere he'd worked so hard to build. Saying that would definitely snap Maya back to reality, and she'd make a point of keeping her distance from then on. Leo glanced at Maya out of the corner of his eye. She seemed completely unfazed by the bombshell she'd just dropped, casually picking at her freshly done, sparkling manicure. Ha! You make it sound so real, Leo said, feigning calmness to test the waters. Don't make jokes like that again. I'm not joking, Maya said, blowing on her nails nonchalantly. You really are much better than that abusive asshole in my house. Chloe must have told you about my family situation. That may be, but your way of thinking is just weird. Leo adopted a half-joking, educational tone. It's almost like if I agreed, you'd actually call me Dad. Maya paused, her voice turning sultry as she teased. I dare you to let me. Do you dare to answer? What's there to be scared of? It's not like I'm the one losing out, Leo retorted, taking a huge risk. He had no idea what state of mind Maya was in, but he pushed back. If she was baiting him, his response would spring the trap, and she might turn around and tell Chloe everything. But based on the system's prompts and her affinity score, he was willing to bet she wouldn't. Dad! Without any warning, she said it. The word, so loaded with gravity and taboo, came out of her mouth completely devoid of emotion, yet her eyes held a flicker of hope. And most importantly, she had said it to her best friend's boyfriend. Damn, you're good. I can't beat you at this game, Leo thought, shaking his head with a wry smile, deciding to drop it. He'd only been probing to see if her defenses were still up. It seemed now he could launch his offensive without any resistance. At the very least, Maya wouldn't be ratting him out to Chloe for any out-of-line behavior. Haha, I knew you wouldn't have the guts to answer. Seeing Leo quickly try to distance himself, the hope in Maya's eyes vanished. She couldn't help but laugh, but there wasn't a trace of happiness in the sound. You men are all the same. I'm used to it. Anyway, being alone isn't so bad. She spoke as if to the air, her tone dripping with disappointment. She pulled out a cigarette, lit it, and blew a mournful smoke ring, curling up in the passenger seat, completely lost in her own melancholy. That sentence was a clear sign. She was disappointed by his inaction. It was a cry for companionship when she felt her most vulnerable. And when a woman is at her most vulnerable, a man can make his move. If he comforts her properly, he can have almost anything he wants. If Leo didn't do something now, all his time spent mastering the player's handbook would have been for nothing. All right, I won't take advantage of you for nothing, Leo said softly, taking the cigarette from her lips. If you ever have a problem you can't solve, just come to me. You're my girlfriend's best friend after all. Ding. Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 37. Please continue your efforts. Who asked for your help? Maya looked up, her cheeks flushing slightly as she watched Leo put the cigarette she'd just had between his lips. Her gloomy mood began to dissipate, replaced by a thrilling wave of pleasure. Leo, Chloe said you're making a movie soon? Maya asked, smiling as she found a new topic. She was naturally a gifted conversationalist. Yeah, things are about to get busy. They started chatting back and forth, a pleasant atmosphere filling the car. After about 10 more minutes of driving, while stopped at a red light, Maya, caught up in the conversation, blurted out a joke. You know, I've realized we have a lot in common. We both love gaming, and I like reading novels too. Maybe we should just get together. Maya laughed teasingly. Chloe bullies you so much. I feel sorry for you. The moment the words left her mouth, she realized what she'd just said. She was trying to steal her best friend's boyfriend. I shut up. Before Leo could say anything, Maya's eyebrows shot up, and she cut him off hysterically. The expression on her face was terrifyingly serious, and she was gasping for air, a complete departure from her usual carefree self. Maya was terrified of what he might say. Maybe she was scared he would agree, or maybe she was scared he would reject her outright. Either way, she didn't want to hear his answer right now. She had spoken on impulse, asking such a shameless question. Leo obediently shut his mouth. Her outburst had instantly plunged the car's pleasant atmosphere to absolute zero. A few minutes later, Maya's emotions started to settle, and a wave of guilt washed over her. She was the one who'd shamelessly asked the question, and then she'd yelled at him for no reason. Wasn't she acting like a total psycho? Have you noticed the weather's gotten a lot better lately? I slept until noon today, Maya said, stretching languidly, trying to throw out a safe, debatable topic while secretly watching the silent Leo. Leo didn't speak, just kept his hands on the wheel and his eyes on the road. Leo, how much longer until we get to the airport? Maya tried again, this time using his name, her voice cautious. Can't you look at the GPS yourself? Leo shot her an impatient glare. Right, of course, Maya mumbled with an awkward laugh, wanting to slap herself. Why did she have to make such a stupid, drama-starting joke? Are you really mad? A few minutes later, Maya tilted her head, leaning closer to Leo and blinking her eyes playfully. You're not my girlfriend. Why would I be mad at you? Leo said, deliberately trying to sound angry. Oh, come on, don't be mad. I was just kidding, Maya cooed, but Leo remained unmoved, continuing to drive. Maya started to panic. She didn't even know why she cared so much about what he thought, especially since he was her best friend's boyfriend. At another red light, Leo stared blankly at his phone, scrolling through TikTok, completely ignoring her. Daddy, don't be mad at Maya anymore. Maya knows she was wrong. Maya bit her lip, grabbing Leo's arm and shaking it gently, begging pitifully. Don't even start. I don't have a disobedient daughter like you. Leo grumbled with a smile, though his heart gave an involuntary leap. Now he understood why successful businessmen and rich old men liked to be godfathers to young women. The sickeningly sweet calls of daddy were enough to make even a man in his prime lose his composure. Normally, Leo's response would have been enough to ease the tension and put the daddy joke to rest. But Maya didn't seem ready to let it go. Seeing his attitude soften, she pushed her luck with a radiant smile. Dad, you're not mad anymore. Look, I'm her best friend's boyfriend. Is it really appropriate for you to keep calling me that? Leo asked, exasperated. He was reminding both of them of their actual relationship. More than that, he couldn't let Maya suspect that he was subtly trying to win her over. His strategy was to wait until she couldn't hold back and made the first move. That way, he'd have the perfect excuse to deploy his core principle. No initiative, no admission, no refusal. It would also prevent her from using this against him as leverage and keep her from getting any ideas about having him all to herself. Even if Maya decided to burn everything down and tell Chloe, Leo would have the evidence and plausible deniability to clear his name. I was just kidding, Maya said, clearly snapping back to her senses. She stretched again, trying to hide her disappointment at his noncommittal response. Her feelings were a complicated mess, disappointed in him, yet envious of him at the same time. Disappointed that he didn't seem to have any real interest in her, seeing her only as his girlfriend's best friend. Envious that his and Chloe's relationship was so genuinely strong. Just then, Chloe called. Leo's phone was connected via Bluetooth, so he answered without picking it up. Leo Bear, where are you and Maya? I just landed. Pulling into the airport parking garage now. You'll see us as soon as you walk out. Thinking he was about to see his girlfriend after so long, Leo kept his left hand on the steering wheel while his right hand, moving with muscle memory, found Maya's thigh and began to gently stroke it. As the two of them chatted sweetly, Maya remained uncharacteristically silent. Normally, she would have been all over Chloe with playful teasing. Why is Maya so quiet? Did she pull another all-nighter gaming and is catching up on sleep now? Chloe asked curiously. Nope, Leo said, turning to look at Maya with a smile. She was staring back at him, her face beet red, her beautifully lined eyes wide with disbelief and shock. Leo froze for a second, then it hit him. If Chloe was on the phone, then whose leg was he touching? He swallowed hard, his gaze slowly falling to his right hand, which was resting on Maya's thigh. He wanted to die. We're almost there. We'll talk when we see you, Leo stammered, yanking his hand back, the warmth still lingering on his palm. His heart pounding, he quickly ended the call. The atmosphere in the car instantly turned bizarre. The frantic thumping of their two hearts seemed to echo in the silence. I didn't do it on purpose, Leo felt he had to explain. I just haven't seen Chloe in so long, and when she called, I thought you were her. You understand, right? Maya didn't answer, just turned to stare out the window at the passing scenery. Her delicate profile and fair neck were flushed with crimson. It's true. You can ask Chloe if you don't believe me, Leo said, getting anxious. I'm just not used to driving without holding on to something. Maya still didn't look at him, but the tips of her ears were visibly red. Shit, system, help me out here. Leo was internally screaming. He was about to see Chloe. If Maya told her he'd touched her leg, it would take him months to smooth things over. 1. Please, I'm begging you, don't tell Chloe. I'll do anything you want from now on. 2. Bestie, can you let me off the hook this one time? I'll carry you in-game every day from now on, okay? 3. Maya, my sweet Maya, good girl. Daddy was wrong. Can you please not tell Chloe? Options 1 and 2 were pathetic. After careful consideration, Leo threw caution to the wind. Maya, my sweet Maya, good girl. Daddy was wrong. Can you please not tell Chloe? He pleaded, his voice cracking with feigned desperation. It was the first time he'd ever been this humble in front of a woman. Ding. Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 42. Please continue your efforts. Holy crap, for real? Leo was overjoyed. It seemed his girlfriend's best friend really did want him to be her dad. Relax. What's the big deal? Maya grumbled, her heart pounding and her face still red. It's just a leg. Look at you, so pathetic. I haven't said anything, so what are you scared of? Daddy was just afraid you'd let it slip by accident, Leo muttered with a smile, the title feeling more and more natural on his tongue. Even more absurdly, Maya herself seemed to accept it as a matter of course. Look at you, what a wimp. Just don't do anything stupid when we see her. I won't, Leo promised, nodding quickly and letting out a huge sigh of relief. Not only had he averted a disaster, but he'd also gained a college student as a daughter. Could things get any weirder? Chloe wasn't wrong. You really are a leg man. Maya asked curiously. You were touching it for so long. Can't you tell the difference between my legs and your girlfriend's? Well, yours feel a little better, Leo said, rubbing his nose, making a bold compliment to test how much her boundaries had shifted. Perv. Don't think I'm happy to hear that, Maya retorted, though her eyes were shining with obvious pride. She was all talk. Getting interested in your girlfriend's best friend's legs. You really are a scumbag. I'm sorry, Leo said, offering a sincere apology while inwardly celebrating. He was being so blatant with his flirting, and not only was she not using it to threaten him, but she was reacting like any other girl, taking it as a point of pride. It was no exaggeration to say that if he could just maintain this delicate balance, it wouldn't be long before he had her completely. Victory was inevitable. Leo's acting was superb. His apology seemed genuine. Looking at his honest, sincere face, Maya shook her head in frustration. I have no idea what Chloe ever saw in a straight-laced guy like you. They waited at the arrivals gate for a few minutes before Chloe emerged from the dense crowd, pulling a heavy suitcase and wearing a backpack with Pikachu on it. Leo's girlfriend was dressed in her usual lively, cute style, a loose black jacket over cream-colored sweatpants, a pair of over-ear headphones hanging around her neck. She was smacking on a piece of gum, her bright, clear eyes scanning the crowd. Leo Bear. Spotting the familiar figure, Chloe let out a joyful shout, spit her gum into a tissue, and tossed it in a trash can. She started running toward Leo, dragging her heavy suitcase behind her, her black hair dancing as she moved, just like that first time at the train station. Hey! She threw herself into his arms, and Leo was hit with a wave of youthful energy. He steadied the suitcase that almost went flying. Yep, still the same familiar feeling. Leo Bear, it's been so long. Did you miss me? Chloe lifted her cute, pretty face, demanding an answer. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. A lot, Leo answered, a rare note of sincerity in his voice, his longing palpable. That's how it was for couples in love. A few days apart felt like an eternity, and Leo was no exception. No matter how clever he was or how many tricks he had up his sleeve, at the end of the day, he was still a normal 24-year-old guy. Hee, since you're being so honest, I'll reward you with a kiss. Chloe lifted her chin proudly, closing her eyes in anticipation. When she was swept up in emotion, she was frank and fearless, never embarrassed about public displays of affection. Leo didn't disappoint her. He wrapped an arm around her slim waist, leaned down, and kissed her. Still that sweet taste, as unforgettable as a first love. They looked like a couple who'd been long distance for ages. People waiting nearby cast envious glances their way. A few passers-by even took out their phones to record the sweet moment. The love is fading. It's all fading, Maya said, pursing her lips with a sour feeling as she watched them, then teased them loudly. It's been so long, and the first thing you do is get all lovey-dovey with your boyfriend and ignore your best friend? You just wait. I'll steal your boyfriend away sooner or later. The speaker had intent, but the listener did not. Maya had made jokes like this to Chloe countless times before. They were both used to it. But after their intimate conversation in the car, and after Leo had accidentally touched her leg, the words felt different. As she spoke, the scenes from the car flashed through her mind like a comic book, her heart pounding in time with the images. Go ahead. He's yours if you can get him. Chloe laughed, completely unconcerned. Before Leo made any mistakes, her trust in him was absolute. She let go of his waist and gave Maya a big, happy hug. Feeling her best friend's trusting embrace, Maya felt a pang of guilt. Then she looked at Leo, who was standing beside them with a smile on his face, and the guilt mixed with a strange, forbidden excitement. The three of them drove to a popular all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue place near the airport for dinner. On the way there, the two girls sat in the back, chattering nonstop. From manicures to outfits, from holiday stories to plans for the new semester, the only thing they didn't discuss was the origin of the universe. Even during dinner, they kept talking. After catching up with Maya, Chloe pulled out her phone and video called her two other roommates, launching into another round of laughter. She would occasionally point the camera at Leo and Maya, eager to share every moment. Leo had no choice but to play the gentleman, grilling slices of beef for Chloe and placing them in her dipping sauce bowl. At restaurants like this, where you had to cook your own food, a guy helping out always came across as chivalrous and could earn him some brownie points. This kind of effort was usually limited to the early stages of dating. Once a relationship deepened, and a couple went out to eat, the guy would usually get too lazy to cook for his girlfriend or prepare her dipping sauce. Leo was like that. After being with Chloe for so long, their relationship wasn't exactly like an old married couple's, but they were deeply attached. Now when they went out, Leo was lazy about it, sometimes even stealing food from her bowl. But Chloe, with her clingy and proud personality, would just pout and insist that he cook for her. She was long accustomed to his service, happily chatting with her roommates while picking up the beef he'd cooked for her. She had no idea that Maya was watching this display of affection with immense envy. Maya was, by nature, someone who craved that kind of attention. But as envious as she was, Maya didn't dare ask Leo to serve her a few slices of cooked beef as he was doing for Chloe. She was afraid Chloe would see and misunderstand. She didn't want to shatter their friendship over something so small. Forget it. He's not mine. After all, Maya sighed to herself, resolving to keep her illicit feelings a secret forever. Just as she pulled out her phone to scroll through TikTok and distract herself from her gloomy mood, the savory aroma of cooked meat wafted toward her. She looked up and was stunned to see several slices of tender, cooked beef in her dipping sauce bowl. Maya looked at Leo in disbelief. He gave her a playful wink and a slight nod, gesturing for her to eat. Not only that, but he had also meticulously picked out the stray pieces of cilantro that had gotten mixed in. This was a crucial detail. Both of her gaming IDs made it clear that she hated cilantro. When a guy remembers small details like that, it can significantly boost his appeal, especially for a girl like Maya, who longed to be noticed. Ding! Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 5 points. Current affinity, 47. Please continue your efforts. That one small, seemingly insignificant gesture was enough to violently rip out the feelings Maya had just decided to lock away, amplifying them infinitely. Leo was sitting between the two of them, his official girlfriend right next to him. At that thought, an unexpectedly sweet smile blossomed on Maya's face. Could this guy be any more clueless? She thought, daring to serve his girlfriend's best friend right under her nose. Wasn't he afraid Chloe would make a scene? Wasn't he afraid she would tell Chloe? What a simple-minded oaf. Maya muttered happily, putting her phone away. She scooted closer to Leo on the bench, so close that she was practically pressed against him. In contrast, Chloe, the actual girlfriend, was sitting half a body's length away, still laughing and chatting with her roommates, completely oblivious to what was happening right beside her. The faint, pleasant scent coming from Maya made Leo a little nervous, especially with Chloe right there. But the next second, something even more unexpected happened. Under the table, Maya's hand gently stroked his thigh, as if reminding him of their little incident in the car. "What are you doing?" Leo flinched, giving her a tense, questioning look. Instead of retreating, Maya leaned in closer. She tilted her pale neck, brought her crimson lips to his ear, and whispered in a sultry voice, "Thank you, Daddy." Feeling the touch on his leg and hearing that sultry, taboo-laden title, Leo's heart skipped a beat. Maya's voice was lethal, a perfect blend of innocent girlishness and seductive maturity. That one simple word sent a shiver down his spine. He felt like a timid housewife in one of those adult films, being blatantly threatened by the neighbor right in front of her clueless husband. He couldn't cry out for help, yet he couldn't stand the blatant harassment. All he could do was put on a show of reluctant compliance. It was a straight-up cuckween scenario, except he was the one being cornered. After dinner, when Chloe went to the restroom, Leo seized the opportunity to pretend to be confused. "What was that all about? My girlfriend was sitting right there." What about?" Maya hummed smugly, bringing up the incident in the car as a half-joking threat. "You got to touch my leg in the car, so I don't get to touch yours? That doesn't seem fair." "I told you, that was an accident," Leo grumbled, looking aggrieved. Besides, what if Chloe had noticed? How would you have explained that? Maya's response was shocking. She spread her hands wide. "As long as she doesn't find out, right? I'm not scared. So what are you scared of?" "Wait, do you even hear yourself?" Leo's acting was top tier. He perfectly portrayed a man caught between his girlfriend and her best friend, on the verge of a breakdown. "I'm your best friend's boyfriend. Please show some respect." Maya took a step forward, stood on her tiptoes, and looked straight into the eyes of the much taller Leo. For a second, he thought she was going to lunge at him and instinctively took a step back. She stared at him for a few seconds, a playful smile spreading across her delicate face. Her voice was pure seduction. "So, can I still call you Dad?" "No," Leo refused righteously. "I'm only 24. How could I have a daughter your age? It would sound so weird if anyone heard. If you don't let me call you Dad, I'll tell Chloe about you touching my leg in the car." Maya tilted her head, raised an eyebrow, and threatened him with absolute confidence. "I might not have any proof, but you know how important a girlfriend's best friend is in a relationship, right? You wouldn't want your girlfriend to find out about you touching my leg, would you?" Leo paused. Why does that line sound so familiar? He wondered. Noticing Chloe walking back from a distance, Maya instinctively took 2 steps back to create some space between them and gave him a playful smile. "Think about it, Daddy." Maya may not have had any real-world experience with guys, but her schemes and mind games were surprisingly intricate. Leo almost didn't realize he was walking right in her trap. If he gave in now, she could use this as leverage to threaten him whenever she wanted. It was the classic tactic used by villains in movies to blackmail the helpless housewife. But Leo was no helpless housewife. He was a bona fide challenger rank player. As soon as Chloe returned, Leo took a deep breath, grabbed her hand, and came clean with a sincere confession. "Babe, I'm so sorry. This afternoon when you called me in the car, I thought Maya in the passenger seat was you, and I accidentally touched her leg." Under Chloe's surprised gaze and Maya's look of utter disbelief, Leo explained with heartfelt sincerity. "You know, it's my one bad habit. When you called, I honestly thought you were in the passenger seat. It was a complete accident." Chloe knew about Leo's habit. Whenever she sat in the passenger seat, she was used to him getting handsy. Sometimes, she didn't even wait for him to make a move. She'd just shift her leg over, gradually becoming a very considerate passenger. As long as Leo hadn't been exposed as a player, Chloe's trust in him was unconditional. And since he'd voluntarily confessed something so risky, it paradoxically made her trust him even more, despite her initial anger. To her, it meant he would always be honest with her no matter what. Don't let it happen again." Chloe playfully slapped him, then turned to Maya with a smile. "Maya, I'm so sorry. Leo just has this thing. You know, I've told you about it. I'm sure he didn't mean anything by it." Chloe finally understood why the atmosphere at dinner had been so strange. Her normally chatty best friend had been quiet and kept leaning in to whisper things to Leo. So that was it. Her best friend had been mad at her boyfriend this whole time. As for Maya, she was completely stunned. She knew Leo was a straight-laced guy, but she had no idea he was this straight-laced. He'd actually told his girlfriend about it? Wasn't he afraid Chloe would flip out on him? Maya was almost impressed. She couldn't tell if he was brave or just an idiot. The most absurd part was that she never imagined his reckless move would completely neutralize her leverage. His luck was just too good. It's fine. Just felt like a dog pawed me, Maya said, a bit annoyed. She'd been planning to use that as leverage to make him do her bidding for the foreseeable future. Okay, let's just forget about him. Maya, I saw 2 outfits I liked yesterday. I need your opinion. Chloe took Maya's comment as a sign of anger, wrapping her arm around hers and opening her phone. Then she turned to Leo. Leo Bear, go get the car. Maya, and I will wait for you here. On one side was her best friend, who was like a sister to her. On the other was the man she planned to marry. Chloe didn't want to offend either of them. With her high emotional intelligence and way with words, she skillfully began to mediate their relationship. You got it, Leo replied cheerfully, casting a triumphant glance at the pouting Maya. It was as if to say, is that all you've got? Leo's move might have seemed like a boneheaded, straightforward play, but it was actually a stroke of genius. It not only defused Maya's threat and made Chloe trust him more, but it also reinforced Maya's impression of him as a clueless, straight-laced guy. Seriously, how could a keyboard warrior who only talked trash to gamers online ever hope to outplay a god-tier master who only fought in high-stakes, real-world matches? Around 6 in the evening, Leo brought the two best friends to the Timeless Impressions villa community, leading them into the nearly $2 million standalone villa he'd recently purchased. Timeless Impressions might not be as prestigious as Willow Creek Estates, but in terms of amenities and location, it was still one of the top villa communities in Portland. As they stepped through the front door, they were greeted by a spacious, bright living room furnished with a soft, comfortable sofa and an elegant coffee table. Through the massive second-floor picture windows, they could see the bustling city and, in the distance, the clearly visible campus of Portland State University. The villa also came with a backyard, where a lush green lawn looked like it had been inlaid into the ground. This was Chloe's favorite part. A natural social butterfly, she was already fantasizing about lazy summer days, drinking soda, and having barbecues on the lawn with Leo and her best friend. The villa was about 3,700 square feet, with 5 bedrooms and 1 living room, spread across 3 floors. The architectural style was a unique blend of modern and classic elements, making it feel both elegant and grand. The only downside was that the villa was on a smaller lot, and the neighboring houses weren't very far apart, lacking the sense of privacy Leo had at his Willow Creek Estates property. This one is yours, Maya. Since you like gaming, we'll set you up with 2 computers so you can play with Leo. Leo Bear, this room is near the backyard, so it's quieter. I'll get you a nice desk in a few days, and you can work in here. I'll take the room between you and Maya, so I can conveniently flip a coin for who to visit anytime I want he. As for the other 2 rooms, we won't furnish them for now. We can use them for storage. If Riley wants to come visit, she can stay in one of them for a while. Chloe held Leo's hand, excitedly assigning rooms. Her vivid descriptions made Maya's heart fill with anticipation. Chloe wanted to live with her boyfriend, and Maya wanted to escape her unfit parents. Both of them were full of hope for this new home. Leo wore a similar hopeful smile, but his heart was a mix of emotions. If he didn't have other girlfriends, a life like this would be pretty great. Whatever. You can't have a rainbow without a little rain, Leo sighed to himself, looking at the 2 best friends with renewed determination. After spending more than 2 hours touring the villa, it was already around 10 at night. Leo drove the 2 girls home. Chloe had just gotten back from Florida and had to visit relatives in Portland with her parents, so she was the first to leave. School was starting tomorrow, and Maya was out of money. She'd messaged her mom, who hadn't replied, so she had no choice but to have Leo drive her home. Maya's parents owned a small clothing factory. It had done well a few years ago, so she had never really struggled financially growing up. But in recent years, with increasing competition and her parents constantly fighting and threatening divorce, they had neglected the business. The factory's profits had dwindled, and it was now on the brink of collapse. On the way home, Leo could clearly sense that Maya was in low spirits. She rested her head on her hand, staring gloomily out the window, looking like she was one step away from lighting up a cigarette. I'm not going back. Take me to the gaming cafe. Huh? What? To the gaming cafe. I'm not going home. Maya said, the gloom in her eyes replaced by a look of relief. I'll just get yelled at if I go back for money anyway. Might as well just spend the night at the cafe. Leo asked deliberately, what about your living expenses for school? Maya spread her small, fair hand open with a playful grin. Hee hee, that's where you come in, Dad. Can you lend me some? Don't say lend. With your relationship with Chloe, I'd give it to you. But can you please stop calling me Dad? Leo reminded her, exasperated. Don't you think it sounds like I'm your sugar daddy? Do you want to be? Maya asked, looking at him with a mischievous glint in her eye. Don't joke like that. I'm your best friend's boyfriend. What are you thinking? Leo refused righteously. Hee hee, seriously, Leo? I think we're really compatible. Why don't you just get with me? I won't bully you like Chloe does. And you said my legs feel better than hers, right? If we got together, I'd let you touch them every day. Maya's words were playful, but her heart was pounding. This was no different than blatantly trying to seduce her best friend's boyfriend. I was just kidding. Were you actually considering it? Before Leo could finish, Maya interrupted him with a nervous laugh. Aren't you afraid I'll actually tell Chloe? No, I was trying to say, shut up, I don't want to hear it. Stop talking. Seeing that Leo was about to reject her, Maya panicked, her expression suddenly turning cold. She looked away, out the window, lost in thought. The atmosphere in the car turned heavy once again. Leo wasn't surprised. Maya wasn't being indecisive. Her conscience was at war with her desires. If it weren't for Chloe, she probably would have already given in to her feelings and be sitting on his lap. Leo glanced at the lighter that had slipped out of Maya's pocket. After a moment of silence, he picked it up and put it in his own. Want to pull an all-nighter at the cafe? I heard tonight's a bonus XP night. As they pulled up to the curb, Maya tentatively threw out the offer, just like last time. She wanted him to stay with her. Not interested, Leo replied, his expression flat. Are you mad again? I was just joking, Maya said, her tone softening. No, you said you were joking, so what's there to be mad about? Leo retorted nonchalantly. Don't be mad, Daddy, it was just a slip of the tongue, Maya cooed, tugging on his arm. Seeing him unmoved, Maya unbuckled her seatbelt, knelt on the passenger seat, wrapped her arms around his head, and leaned close to his ear. She gently nipped his earlobe with her sharp little canine tooth and whispered seductively, Daddy, want to touch Maya's legs? Maya knows you love that the most. No, I'm not falling for that again, Leo said, his voice tense with feigned reluctance. You're definitely trying to trap me, so you can threaten to tell Chloe again. I won't, Maya promised solemnly. Cross my heart and hope to die. No, I can't. Leo's hand instinctively reached out, then trembled and pulled back. You should go. What are we even doing? It'll be terrible if Chloe finds out. Oh my God, why are you such a coward? Maya was getting frustrated. She grabbed both of his hands and placed them on her thighs. If you don't say anything, and I don't say anything, how will Chloe ever know? She didn't even know why she was acting so recklessly. Her self-restraint, her loyalty to her best friend, it had all been thrown out the window. How is it, Daddy? Chloe's legs definitely don't feel as good as Maya's, right? Maya asked proudly, her eyes full of adoration as she stroked his hair. Isn't this wrong? Leo asked, feigning dilemma. And can you please not call me Dad? It feels weird. You don't want me to? Then no more touching. Maya pretended to be angry and started to pull back, but Leo reflexively grabbed her slim waist. It was a bad habit he just couldn't break. Dad, you're such a perv. Maya teased triumphantly, settling herself squarely on his lap. She thought she had found his weakness. Leo's face flushed. Of all the things he had calculated, he had never considered the side effects of this particular habit. Laying a hand on your girlfriend's best friend will send you to hell, Maya whispered, her voice strained and her eyes hazy as she felt his hands begin to roam. Perhaps, having grown up without parental supervision, she had always been a bad girl at heart, merely suppressing it until now. Meeting a man she desired had unleashed it all. You're right. What we're doing really is wrong, Leo said, his face a mask of guilt as he released her waist. Oh, come on, we've come this far. Why do you care about that now? Just don't do anything to hurt Chloe in the future. That's all. Maya protested, grabbing his retreating hands and pulling them back. Throwing all caution to the wind, she urged him on, then leaned in and kissed him, her lips clumsy yet passionate. No, I really think we should be rational. Maya, you need to calm down. Seriously, Maya, this is wrong. I feel so guilty toward Chloe. Ugh, why is this button so tight? On the quiet, late-night street, after more than 10 minutes of heated passion inside the BMW, Maya lay disheveled on top of Leo, whispering breathlessly, her body slick with sweat. You bad boy. I remember you said that if it weren't for Chloe, you would have pursued me. Is that true? Yeah, I'm a sucker for pretty faces. I only go after beautiful girls, Leo said, stroking her cheek tenderly. Pfft. With your clueless personality, Chloe is probably the only girl silly enough to fall for you, Maya teased, a hint of jealousy in her voice as she rested in his arms. Leo just smiled, saying nothing. Some things were better left unsaid, as they would only ruin the mood. Maya, since things have already gotten to this point, I don't want to dwell on it anymore, Leo said, leaning down to kiss her lips. He began his heartfelt speech. But I still don't want to break up with Chloe. You know what I mean? Nope. Maya winked playfully, deciding to tease this silly guy a little. Don't do this, Leo begged, just as she'd hoped, looking utterly panicked. I really don't want to see you two ruin years of friendship over me. Look at you. So pathetic, Maya laughed, playfully punching him before her tone turned serious. I don't want to fall out with Chloe either. You're the newcomer here, after all. We've known each other since middle school, so you'd better not do anything to wrong her. When you two get married, I'll move in with you and help take care of the kids. The three of us will build a good life together. That's what's most important. Leo paused. Why did that sentence sound so familiar? You're pretty happy right now, aren't you? Maya tilted her head back, looking at him with amusement. A girl like me, who doesn't want a title, who won't fight or compete, who's this beautiful, and who's willing to share you with Chloe. You must be ecstatic, right? Yeah, I'm pretty happy, Leo admitted honestly. Maya pouted and punched him in the side. You're such a blockhead. You can't even say something nice. I have no idea why I like a guy like you. What do you want to hear? Leo asked, cupping her bottom, his voice full of affection. I don't know. Think of something yourself, Maya grumbled, burying her face in his chest. 1. I'm an honest guy. When I'm with a girl I like, I can't think of a single thing to say. Don't make this hard for me. 2. I'll break up with Chloe right now. Let's be together, just the two of us. Maya, I like you. Be my girlfriend. 3. Good girl. You won't have to be alone anymore. From now on, Daddy will be with you and take care of you in every way. Everything your dad never gave you as a child, I'll make it all up to you. Good girl. You won't have to be alone anymore. From now on, Daddy will be with you and take care of you, Leo said, lifting her so she was looking at him, his voice full of emotion. Everything your dad never gave you as a child. I'll make it all up to you, okay? But my dad always said I was a waste of money. Maya's eyes welled up, and she looked like a little girl who had suffered a great injustice with no one to turn to. My mom didn't like me much either. She always complained, asking why I wasn't a boy. What century is this? Still hung up on that nonsense. Leo scoffed, making a domineering and direct promise. It's okay. You have me now. If they don't want to raise you, I'll raise you. Wah. Maya's delicate face crumpled, and she buried her face in his chest, sobbing uncontrollably. It was as if all the pent-up sadness from her entire life had exploded in that single moment. Humans are strange creatures. When you have no one to rely on, no matter how great the hardship or how deep the pain, you find a way to endure. Maya had no one in her life who could give her the security she craved, so she used her makeup and style as armor to intimidate others, a subconscious defense mechanism. People like her are often far more fragile and starved for love than the average person. The moment someone suddenly cares for them, protects them, and gives them a sense of security, they drop their fragile facade without hesitation. Their hidden vulnerability comes pouring out to the person who gave them that safety. In reality, Maya was a lot like Lily Reed. They were both girls who needed a sense of security, and there were plenty of girls like them out there. Otherwise, there was no way Leo could have conquered her so easily and in such a short amount of time. Ding! Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 10 points. Current affinity, 57. Please continue your efforts. Ding! Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has reached 50 points. Display her personal information. Ding! Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has reached 50 points. You have obtained a mystery box. Open it now. Leo had thought it would take all his skill to win over his girlfriend's best friend, but in just one day, he turned her into his good girl. On second thought, it wasn't that surprising. Maya's experience with guys was like her gaming skill. Her rank and her actual ability were completely mismatched. She was great at theory, but a mess in practice. Against a god-tier player like Leo, she never stood a chance. Ding! A message notification chimed. Sitting on Leo's lap, Maya pulled out her phone. The joyful smile on her face instantly faded. The message was from her mother. It contained no text, no voice note, just a cold Venmo transfer of $500. Not even a simple take care was included. Maya paid it no mind. She was used to this cold, distant relationship with her parents. Besides, she had a new person to rely on now. The future suddenly felt full of hope, like she'd been given a new lease on life. "Dad, give me my allowance." Maya ignored the cold transfer from her mother. Instead, she snuggled into Leo's chest, tilted her head back, and blinked her eyes expectantly. Looking at her innocent, hopeful gaze and hearing that taboo-laden title, Leo suddenly felt a genuine sense of paternal pride, like a father watching his playful daughter ask for money. "All right, Dad will get you some cash." Leo held her slim waist with one hand and reached for his wallet in the console with the other. Of all his girlfriends, apart from Lily, the rest came from very well-off families. Eleanor and Isabel were practically billionaires. Financially, Leo never had to worry about them. In fact, they would sometimes ask him if he needed any support. Maya and Chloe were also not short on cash. But for a girl like Maya, who craved affection, she would much rather take money from a man who gave her a sense of security than accept her parents' cold support. "Here, this card should last you until graduation. The pin is Chloe's birthday." Leo took a bank card from his wallet and handed it to her. "If you run out before then, just ask me for more. Dad doesn't have much, just a little bit of money." This was a card Leo had prepared for Chloe, intended for their new home's daily expenses. But since they were best friends, and would soon be sharing a boyfriend anyway, it didn't matter who used it. Ding! Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 3 points. Current affinity, 60. Please continue your efforts. Thank you, Daddy. Maya took the card, her face lighting up as she gave him a quick kiss. Then, she made a startlingly bold confession. "Why don't we go to a hotel? What Chloe's given you, I want to give you too." Leo wasn't surprised to hear her say that. At her core, she was probably a bad girl who loved the thrill of it all. Girls like her, who lacked security but were willing to throw themselves headfirst into a relationship, often struggled to control their emotions. When they were swept up in a moment, they were capable of anything. "Silly Maya, you have school tomorrow." From their first encounter to this stunning 60-point affinity score, all in one day, Leo wasn't about to be so reckless as to take her to a hotel to talk about life. He might not be a good guy, but if it was just about sex and not feelings, what was the difference between that and paying for a prostitute? Leo always preferred it when things happened naturally, when both parties were deeply in love and the intimacy was a mutual, unspoken agreement. He loved the romantic, ambiguous atmosphere that preceded it. Maybe that was just him, a player who secretly wanted to be a white knight. "Maya, good girl. We'll talk about it next time when we're both free." Leo was always particular about the names he used for his girlfriends. The right nickname not only rolled off the tongue, but also made them happy. He always called Isabel Izzy, a term that was both intimate and respectful, since she was a senior in many ways. Chloe was his most normal girlfriend, so he usually called her babe or honey in private. With Lily, it was similar, though he sometimes playfully called her mom just to see the innocent girl blush. As for Eleanor, he often used the intimate Ellie. He felt their relationship was still somewhere between friends and lovers. And for Maya, he noticed she loved it when he used her first name in a tender way. Between two people their age, it could sound a bit childish, even cheesy, but he knew she loved it. It created a sense of an adult doting on a little girl, which was exactly the kind of parental affection she craved. He imagined that in the future, if he patted her on the head and said, "Good job, Maya," she would probably puff out her cheeks, look up at him with grateful eyes, and try even harder. "Then you have to come to the gaming cafe with me." Maya doesn't want to stay up all night alone, she pouted. When a girlfriend acts cute for her boyfriend, there's usually a bit of performance involved, her voice pitching up instinctively. But Leo could tell Maya's actions were completely genuine. It was no exaggeration to say that Maya was truly starting to see him as a father figure. "Let's go, time to own," Leo said, naturally agreeing. He took her hand, and they got out of the car and headed toward the gaming cafe. With school starting tomorrow, the cafe was unusually quiet. After checking in, Leo and Maya found only a few hardcore gamers huddled in the corners. Their hair was a mess, their clothes looked like they hadn't been washed in weeks. It was as if no one in the world cared about them, and they didn't care about anyone either, lost in their games with dark circles under their eyes. Maya used to think that one day she would end up like them, a lost girl with no one to care for her, hungry with no one to feed her, forced to sleep in gaming cafes. But now, that hopeless future no longer haunted her. Someone had broken into her numb, indifferent world. The relationship might be immoral, and he might be her best friend's boyfriend, but at least someone cared about her. Thinking of all the cold, lonely nights she had spent alone in cafes, and then looking at Leo at the front desk adding money to their accounts, an unprecedented wave of happiness washed over her. The moment they stepped into the private room for two, Maya couldn't suppress her emotions any longer. She pulled him in and kissed him desperately. A long time later, she finally pulled back, rubbing her nose against his, a satisfied and contented smile on her face. "Thank you, Daddy. Maya likes you the most." Enemy mid Cassidon. WTF. Gank at LVL2. Gank at LVL4. Gank at LVL6? Are you even a jungler? Is your mid laner your dad or something? "I don't eat cilantro xinjiao." "Yep, how do you know?" "My mid Zed is my daddy." Teehee. Enemy mid Cassidon. Teammate. Elmeo. "So we're just NPCs in your game, huh?" "Cilantro, go away, Zed. Do you understand the power of a father-daughter duo on the battlefield?" After another resounding victory, it was past 3 in the morning. The gaming cafe was silent except for the low hum of the HVAC system. "Dad, I'm sleepy," Maya mumbled lazily. "I can drive you back to your dorm," Leo suggested. No need. Right here is fine." Maya shut down her computer and, barefoot, climbed onto Leo's lap, facing him. Her hands gently rested on his stomach. The chairs in the private rooms were huge. Even with her sitting on his lap, there was plenty of space left. "Seriously, are you a little kid?" Leo said, his words teasing, but he lovingly wrapped his arms around her slim waist, pulling her soft body into his embrace. "I'm a little kid, so what?" Maya giggled, content and lazy. She snuggled against him a few times and fell asleep within minutes. After a quick game of TFT, Leo made sure she was sound asleep. He carefully lifted her into his arms, walked through the silent cafe, and returned to his BMW. He gently placed her in the back seat and covered her with his jacket. Back in the driver's seat, he looked in the rearview mirror at the girl he had managed to win over in a single day, his girlfriend's best friend of over a decade. He smiled, satisfied, and opened Maya's profile. Name: Maya Pierce. Gender: female. Age: 20. Appearance: 9. 3. Height: 5'7". Weight: 108 lbs. Hobbies: web fiction, video games, celebrity gossip, cosplay, attending anime conventions, pulling all-nighters with dad. Measurements: 30-20-34. Affinity for host: 60. Current mood: hopeful for the future, but also conflicted and excited about the nature of their relationship. Current location: Lunar Phase Gaming Cafe parking lot. Intimate encounters: 0. Solo sessions: 124. Damn, 124 times? Leo's mouth twitched. He didn't even pleasure himself that often. But then, thinking about her list of hobbies, which was basically a checklist for being extremely online, it made sense. A girl that immersed in internet culture was bound to enjoy some private time. Do it yourself, self-sufficient, and no risk of catching anything. It was certainly better than girls who spent their nights clubbing. System: open the mystery box. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have obtained Advanced System Upgrade Card. Advanced System Upgrade Card. When interacting with others, the system's options will now include clear pros and cons and can provide the host with an analysis of why the correct option is the best choice. This is insane. Leo was about to complain that the box only gave him one item, but after reading the description, he realized he'd hit the jackpot. Simply put, the system would now highlight the correct answer for him. And if he didn't understand why, it would even explain the reasoning. It was basically an open book exam. With this kind of assistance, combined with his now perfected social skills, Leo really wasn't afraid of any potential disaster zones. "Daddy," Maya murmured in her sleep, unconsciously clamping his jacket between her legs and rubbing them together gently. Just then, the upgraded system's options appeared. 1. Wake her up and ask if she wants you to take her back to her dorm. Not recommended. 2. Turn the car's heat up to 72 degrees and get in the back to sleep with her. Recommended. 3. Shake her awake and take her to the nearest hotel. If she likes calling you daddy so much, make her scream it all night. Not recommended. Option 2. Analysis. For a girl who has just found someone to rely on, the emotional value provided by waking up to find the person she likes by her side is immeasurable. With this, what disaster zone could I possibly be afraid of? I'm invincible, Leo exclaimed. He set the heat to 72 degrees, moved to the back seat, lifted Maya's head, and gently placed it on his lap, stroking her sharp, delicate features. As he did, he felt his fingers grow damp. He looked down and saw that Maya was crying in her sleep, her body twitching as she mumbled, "Daddy, don't abandon me. I'm not a waste of money." Leo sighed helplessly. He hadn't known Maya long, but from what she'd revealed today, he knew her family situation was terrible. Her parents seemed to have a severe preference for sons, and her father was abusive. Not only did her mother not divorce the man, but she joined him in rejecting her own daughter. Leo never understood parents like that. Once you have a child, boy or girl, if you raise them right, they'll grow up to be successful and take care of you in your old age, right? If they got the son they wanted, but just spoiled him rotten, would he really turn out to be the filial, family-oriented man they hoped for? Maya, don't be afraid. I won't abandon you. Leo whispered close to her ear, making a solemn promise. I'll take care of you for the rest of your life. In her sleep, Maya seemed to hear him. Her crying subsided, and she let out a soft "Machum." Leo gently wiped the tears from her face with his thumb, a mixture of helplessness and contentment in his voice. Well, I've already got one calling me daddy. What's one more? Ding. Maya Pierce's affinity for the host has increased by 10 points. Current affinity, 70. Please continue your efforts. The next morning, Leo was woken by the system's notification tone. As his consciousness slowly returned, he felt a heavy weight on his lap and a gentle assault on his mouth. He opened his eyes to find that Maya was awake and sitting on his lap, her arms wrapped around his neck, tenderly and clumsily stealing kisses. Just like option 2 predicted, Leo thought with a sigh, his hands slowly climbing up to her slim waist. A long while later, Maya pulled away, her face flushed, her throat moving as she swallowed. She gasped for air and gave him a playful smile. Daddy caught me.